Ain stands in front of a glowing crystal, feeling the energy in the air. He glances around, making sure he's alone, then focuses on the stone. In the background, the king and Olivia watch closely. Olivia staying behind the king as instructed. A mysterious figure floats above, radiating divine presence as the boy finds himself in a surreal space. Confused, he listens as the being explains his death, an absurdly pitiful cause. Learning that he's about to be reincarnated, he's led to a life gacha machine. His next life will be decided entirely by luck. The boy approaches the gacha machine and hesitates, unsure. Urged by the goddess, he spins it. A golden capsule drops, rare and glowing. Inside, he finds a slip of paper with an unfamiliar skill, toxin decomposition. He stares, puzzled, trying to figure out its value. He stares at the skill in disbelief, shouting in frustration. The goddess, however, smiles proudly, explaining its rare power against toxins and bacteria. Before he can protest more, a portal opens beneath him. She calmly sends him off, wishing him luck in a world of stats, monsters, and magic. He's pulled in, panicking as the new life begins. In a quiet room of a large mansion, a small child wakes up alone at a table. The breeze flows through the curtains as he slowly reaches for a bowl of food. Still groggy, he wonders if the strange events he just experienced were part of a dream, perhaps the moment of his reincarnation. 5 years have passed since his reincarnation. Now a young boy, he still struggles with clumsiness, but decides to test the strange skill he got from the gacha. Drinking calmly, he activates toxin decomposition for the first time. The experiment works. Bacteria is completely neutralized. His ability proves real. Frustrated by the side effects, headache, and exhaustion, he decides to stop using the skill altogether. Calling it useless, he slams the table in annoyance. Suddenly remembering his training session with his father, he rushes outside. In the courtyard, knights are already practicing as he hurries to join them. Ain trains with focus, swinging his wooden sword with all his might. Despite his effort, his form still needs work. His father, Logas, a powerful general from a great kingdom, watches sternly and advises him to train harder. Ain thanks him nervously, fully aware of the high expectations placed on him. Ain reflects on his privileged new life, realizing he was reborn into the influential Roundheart family, rulers of a powerful port region. As he trains under his father's watchful eye, he grows more certain that his rare gacha reward shaped his noble fate. Nearby, a noble woman named Camilla watches with a gentle smile, while a young knight in training greets Logas respectfully. Logas proudly praises Grint, saying he looks like a true knight. With Grint's training now prepared, Camilla and Logas step away to assist him. Ain is told to continue his sword practice alone. As Grint walks off confidently, Ain watches in silence, hiding his mixed feelings. Ain explains that Grint is his younger half-brother, born from their father's second wife. Despite being a year younger, Grint possesses the rare and powerful skill Holy Knight, highly respected in the kingdom. In contrast, Ain reflects on his own skill, Toxin Decomposition EX, which feels useless in comparison, leaving him in his brother's shadow. Ain trains alone, gripping his sword tightly as frustration builds. He knows his father is fair, but deep down, he sees how Grint shines brighter in everyone's eyes. The comparison eats at him. Driven by anger and self-doubt, he strikes with force, channeling all his bottled-up emotions into a single swing. Facing a fully armored training dummy, Ain eyes it with determination. He glances around, thinking hard. Despite knowing it's nearly impossible to move the ironclad figure, he charges anyway, shouting with all his strength. The knights nearby watch, amused, reminding him it's made of solid metal. But Ain clenches his fist. He knows it's foolish, yet that's exactly why he has to try. Ain leaps at the armored dummy with all his might, but the impact backfires. His sword bounces off, and he's thrown to the ground in pain. The knight reminds him again, it was impossible. As Ain sits there clutching his hand, aching and frustrated, he walks away quietly, staring at his trembling fingers, unsure of what to feel. Determined to impress his father and Camilla, Ain buries himself in study. Surrounded by books, he vows to work harder than anyone else. The butler praises Ain's dedication to training and studying. He assures Ain that even the servants believe he has great potential. Ain smiles, thankful, but deep down hopes their belief in him will truly come true. Hearing his mother's voice, Ain lights up with joy. He quickly heads to her room, excited. After knocking gently and hearing her reply, he straightens his clothes and steps inside, smiling. Ain enters and is warmly welcomed by Olivia, his mother. Though she's his mom, her youthful appearance and gentle aura make her feel more like an older sister to him, especially since he still remembers his past life. Olivia embraces Ain gently, praising his efforts and telling him he always does his best. She teases that he smells like books, making him blush from embarrassment. Still, her words reassure him he's doing well. Anne asks about Olivia's work and learns she's been handling everything alone, even though it was meant to be a shared task. He feels bad that his father isn't helping and quietly admires how capable and beautiful his mother is, feeling a mix of awe and awkward admiration. Olivia gives Aine his status card, something he's been eagerly waiting for. As he reads it, he sees his stats and job title. Roundheart House, oldest son. 2 skills are listed, Toxin Decomposition EX, and a new one, Gift of Training. Aine is shocked and curious. Aine thanks Olivia for the status card but isn't sure if his stats are good. She reassures him it's normal for a 5-year-old. Curious about his new skill, Gift of Training, she explains it. Strengthens the body, reduces pain and fatigue, and boosts endurance. Aine realizes it's not a bad status after all. Olivia praises Aine, saying no one knows how hard he tries better than she does. Touched by her words, Aine listens closely as she shifts the topic his grandmother has a task for him. Afterwards, she suggests they go out for a walk together. Aine questions why his mother insists on handling the task herself. Doubts fill his mind. He blames himself, thinking he's unworthy as the eldest son. Fearing she'll leave because of his shortcomings, he clenches his fist, guilt taking over. Olivia gently takes his hand, sensing his pain. Olivia gently calls Aine her extraordinary knight and asks if he'll accompany her. His face lights up with joy, and without hesitation he agrees, eager to be by her side. Olivia and Aine visit a merchant to choose tea. The seller is startled to see her and quickly prepares his best products. As they sit, Aine notices something unexpected among the goods. Magic stones. Curious, he asks about them, clearly intrigued. The merchant explains that magic stones come from monsters and hold powerful energy, often used in rituals, gear, or accessories. Curious, Aine is allowed to hold one. As he grips it, a strange reaction occurs. The stone glows intensely in his hands, surprising everyone. Aine stares at the glowing magic stone, wondering if it tastes as good as it smells. Curiosity takes over. Despite knowing it's absurd, he secretly licks it. No one notices, but his heart races, unsure if something irreversible just happened. Aine is stunned. The magic stone tastes incredibly sweet. Overwhelmed, he lights up with joy, holding it like a precious treat. Olivia notices his reaction and asks if something's wrong. Flustered, he denies it, trying to hide the bizarre truth. Olivia selects 3 teas, and the merchant, grateful, offers the magic stone as a gift. Aine happily accepts. But as they prepare to leave, he notices something strange. The stone's yellow glow is fading. He stares at it, puzzled. The next day during training, Aine notices something unusual. His strength suddenly surges. With one swing, his blade cuts more sharply than ever before. The knights nearby are surprised, unaware that something within him has changed. With a powerful strike, Aine's blade tears through the armored dummy, something he was never able to do before. Shocked by his own strength, he realizes this isn't normal. Aine breathes a sigh of relief. He's unharmed. But the aftermath of his strike leaves everyone stunned. His wooden sword cracks apart, and the training dummy is blown to pieces. As dust settles, Aine stands in the center, quietly processing what just happened. The armored dummy lies shattered, split cleanly in 2. Aine stands still, stunned by his own strength. One of them exclaims in shock that the young master succeeded. Aine looks up, still processing what he just did, splitting iron armor clean in half with a wooden sword. One of the knights yells out in shock, confirming what happened. Right after, a status window appears, showing Aine's name, stats, and skills. His power just got a massive boost. During the carriage ride, the mood shifts as Aine finds himself nervously facing his mother's cold silence. She's clearly upset, but the reason isn't said out loud. Aine panics, trying to calm her down, while thinking there must have been something specific that triggered her anger. Yet staying quiet won't solve anything. At a noble gathering, Aine's father, Logus, announces his younger son, Grint, as the Roundheart family heir. To make things worse, he also reveals Grint's engagement to the daughter of a marquis, even though the boy is only 4. Aine stays quiet, but inside, he's frustrated. His mother apologizes, knowing Aine is being sidelined, and tells him he'll just have to endure it for now. Aine hides his frustration behind a smile, not wanting his mother to worry. He decides to work even harder to be accepted by his father. Though people blame his recent sword feat on worn-out armor, Aine suspects something else, especially since the change happened after he licked the mysterious stone. As their carriage arrives at their destination, the thought lingers in his mind. As they arrive at their destination, Aine is struck by the grand mansion before him, massive and elegant, unlike anything he's seen before. A statue watches over the entrance, adding to the imposing presence of the estate. It's clear they've entered the world of nobility. Aine and his mother stand in awe at the mansion's scale. Olivia calmly notes how it resembles a royal palace. As Olivia leads Ain forward, she reassures him to follow her lead, knowing full well the kind of social pressure he'll face. Ain couldn't attend the party because each family was only allowed one child, and Grint had already been chosen. Ain's mother tries to reason with him, but they realize it was Camilla's plan to exclude Ain. Although Ain wasn't allowed into the party, he didn't seem bothered by it. Watching his mother argue on his behalf, he realized he wasn't interested in the event itself. What caught his eye instead was the beautiful garden outside. As he stepped onto the balcony, he was completely captivated by its size and elegance. The peaceful view lifted his spirits, and he felt that just walking around that place would be enough to make him happy, even during the celebration. After hearing Ain's words, the attendant quickly bowed and promised to inform the Archduke. Ain, however, seemed more enchanted by the garden than the party itself. With a calm smile, he admired the flowers blooming around him, ones he thought were as beautiful as his mother. When she gently asked if he was really okay with not joining the event, he simply nodded. For him, this quiet moment among the flowers was enough. Ain, smiling brightly, held his mother's hands and expressed how being surrounded by flowers made him much happier than any party could. Touched, she pulled him into a tight embrace, feeling his warmth and sincerity. For a moment, she forgot they were guests in someone else's home. That small gesture was enough to fill her heart with peace. After receiving permission from the Archduke, a butler approaches Ain and his mother, informing them that someone will guide them around the garden. As they thank him, a young girl enters and greets them calmly. She looks at Ain and, with curiosity, asks if he is the eldest child of the Roundheart family. Her presence brings a shift in the atmosphere, signaling a new interaction about to unfold. The girl introduces herself as Klain, the granddaughter of Graf August, head of the August family. With a gentle smile and composed demeanor, she presents her noble lineage, leaving Ain quietly surprised by her status and presence. Ain hesitates but introduces himself to Klain, curious about her presence. Klain, composed and polite, apologizes for the earlier mistake caused by her family. After a brief moment of awkward silence between them, she formally offers to guide Ain and Olivia through the garden, welcoming them to enjoy their walk. As they stroll through the elegant garden, Ain is mesmerized by the glowing flowers, calling the scene mystical. Klain leads the way with grace, while Olivia quietly admires the surroundings. Ain, though impressed, is more moved by simply being beside Olivia, the one he truly cherishes. The group continues exploring the radiant garden, now glowing warmly under the setting Sunday. Ain is clearly amazed by how the inner courtyard feels even more magical than the outside. Klain comments on how the view becomes especially beautiful at sunset. Inside the grand hall, nobles murmur about Ain and his connection to the Roundheart family. Whispers spread fast, some impressed by his holy knight talent, others quick to compare him to his older sibling. Meanwhile, Klain walks ahead in silence, unaffected by the gossip. To her, Ain stands out not because of power or reputation, but because of his gentleness, something she noticed more than any title or rumor. Ain, clearly captivated, compliments Klain without hesitation, catching her completely off guard. Embarrassed but flattered, she freezes for a moment. The group then shifts their focus to a glowing blue rose, a rare sight known as the blue flame rose. Klain explains its value and rarity, mentioning how specific and perfect the environment needs to be for it to bloom. Ain listens intently, impressed by both the flower and how much Klain knows about it. Klain calmly explains that the thorns of the glowing blue rose are laced with a deadly poison so potent that even a single thorn could kill up to 1,000 people. She adds that the name Blue Flame Rose comes from the intense burning sensation the toxin causes. Ain is visibly shocked, realizing how dangerous something so beautiful can be. Olivia then steps in, saying that despite its danger, the flower can become a true gem. When Ain wonders if that means forcing it to be something it's not, Olivia clarifies it's about being a genuine treasure, not a fake one. Klain explains that if all the poison in the blue flame rose is successfully extracted, it transforms into a gem by itself. Olivia adds that the flower's poison has the power to crystallize things. It's said to become the most beautiful gem ever known, called the Star Crystal, named for how its glow resembles the night sky, with its petals sparkling like stars. However, Ain learns that purifying the flower is extremely difficult and expensive. Klain mentions there are only 2 of these roses in the entire kingdom of Heim. Olivia reveals she had to spend half a year's worth of regional taxes just to purify one of them, surprising Ain with how costly and rare it truly is. Ain starts recalling a memory people once admired his rare ability, Poison Decomposition EX. He had the power to neutralize any toxin or poison, but despite that, the side effects always left him dizzy and weak, making it hard to use. Now, in front of Klain, he quietly denies something to himself. Perhaps the idea that he's worthless, or that his ability has no value. Then, trying to shift the mood, he asks her if she'd like to see the star crystal, hinting that maybe he could still do something meaningful. Ain finally understands what he needs to do. Despite warnings, he reaches out and grabs the dangerous blue rose, one known to contain a deadly poison. Just as Klain and Olivia panic and yell for him to stop, light bursts from Ain's body, activating his power. The scene becomes tense and dramatic as his poison decomposition EX starts to work. Ain activates his ability and enters a state of purification, floating amid bubbles, as if underwater. He feels the poison being expelled from his body, comparing the sensation to drinking mint soda. However, something bothers him this time. He doesn't feel the same as last time. Even though the process is working, something feels different. Ain ignores the girl's warnings and grips the poisonous rose tightly. As his hand glows brightly, he channels his unique ability, confidently remembering that his power is the most effective against poison. Determined, he believes he can finally prove what he's always been told, that he was made for this moment. With a calm smile, Ain observes the result in his hands. The rose, now purified, shines with rare intensity and beauty. He holds the Bintang crystal, the legendary jewel that appears only when all the poison is removed from the flower. Klain is surprised by Ain's boldness, unable to believe he managed to touch and purify such a dangerous flower. As he kneels, Ain humbly holds out the crystallized rose to her, telling her he has brought her what she so desperately desired. The gesture leaves Klain in shock, speechless at what she sees. Ain kneels before Klain, offering the crystallized rose he created with his own hands. Silently, with a calm smile on his face, he holds out the gift that represents not only his power, but also his dedication. Klain watches, surprised and moved, as one of the women nearby watches with astonishment in her eyes. While Ain wonders if Klain will laugh at him for his words, he despairs, embarrassed for having let himself be carried away by the moment. His face flushes with embarrassment as he nervously backs away. Klain, on the other hand, is completely taken aback and blushes, clutching her chest tightly, unsure how to react to the unexpected situation. The boy shyly offered a small gift. After a moment of hesitation, the girl accepted it, their hands briefly touching. Both blushed, feeling a quiet warmth between them. Under the moonlight, the girl smiled warmly, holding the small gift close. Surrounded by blooming roses, she accepted it with joy, her expression filled with quiet happiness. Under the moonlit garden, Ain shyly offered a handmade gift, earning admiration from those around him. The girl, Klain, accepted it with warmth, and Ain soon asked for another to give his mother. As the evening went on, gratitude and quiet smiles filled the air, both families cherishing the peaceful moment before parting ways. Klain firmly told Ain he didn't need to speak so formally to her anymore, her tone leaving no room for argument. Flustered but smiling, he agreed. As the night ended, guests began leaving while Ain waited with his mother, realizing his father was running late. Ain's mother asked about her husband, only to learn he had left early for another party. Shocked and hurt, she stood in silence as Ain realized the truth. Lowering his gaze, he wondered if his father truly saw no worth in him. Ain's mother gently asked if he still cared for his father. He hesitated, struggling with his feelings. Though he felt grateful for being raised, he couldn't forgive how his father treated his mother. Hearing her son's words, Ain's mother smiled softly, touched by his honesty. Then, with sudden resolve, she took his hand and told him they were leaving, unable to let him endure such pain any longer. Under the moonlit sky, Ain's mother smiled as she led him away from the castle. With determination in her eyes, she promised to take him to the most beautiful place of all their homeland. Under the calm night sky, Ain's mother removed her ring, saying she no longer needed it. With a gentle smile, she made a quiet call to arrange their departure, then told Ain they would return to the city's port together. As they rode home under the night sky, Ain felt comforted beside his smiling mother. But when the carriage failed to stop, unease filled him. His mother gently told him to wait a little longer, her calm expression hiding something he didn't yet understand. As Ain looked outside, confusion filled him. The city was in chaos, people shouting and fleeing in panic. Among the noise, a strange machine rose in the streets, its ominous presence leaving Ain frozen in shock. A massive warship emerged from the harbor, its cannons gleaming under the moonlight. The crowd stared in awe and fear as waves crashed against the docks, the ship's power and presence dominating the night. Ain and his mother stepped out, startled by the sight of an enormous ship approaching the port. The townspeople panicked, shouting as armored soldiers began descending from the vessel, their presence signaling that something grave was about to unfold. Ain and his mother faced rows of armored soldiers, standing in perfect formation. Ain grew worried, but his mother tried to comfort him. As tension rose, a mysterious figure approached, addressing Ain directly. A knight in shining armor stepped forward, removing her helmet to reveal a kind face. She introduced herself as Christina Vernstein and greeted Ain respectfully, marking the start of their encounter. Ain realized the knights were not enemies, noticing how beautiful Christina looked. Christina greeted Olivia and explained they had come on the ship to bring Princess Olivia back home, leaving Ain surprised by the true purpose of their arrival. Olivia promised to explain everything to Ain later. Together they boarded the ship with Christina. Their journey led them to a grand mansion under the moonlit sky, the home of the August Archduke. Inside the mansion, Graf August, the family head, discussed recent events with his granddaughter. She agreed with his thoughts, feeling grateful for the precious gift Ain had given her, while Graf acknowledged the impact of the Roundheart family. Graf August sighed, worried the other family might break their promise about the next family head. He told Klain to prepare for what was coming. Their focus turned to Benua Ishtar, the only kingdom on the continent, as Graf explained the journey ahead. Graf explained to Klain that Ishtalika is an extraordinary unified kingdom, far surpassing their own in every way. He revealed that Olivia is actually from Ishtalika and is the daughter of its current king, Silviard von Ishtalika. Olivia's true identity is revealed. She is the second princess of Ishtalika, Olivia von Ishtalika. Ain and Klain are shocked to realize Olivia is royalty. This also means Ain is a noble, leaving everyone stunned by the revelation. Olivia apologized to Ain for keeping her royal status a secret. Ain, still confused, wondered why a princess would marry into the Roundheart family. Olivia hugged Ain, saying she just did what was needed, while Christina watched them with a serious look. Olivia reassured Ain she'd explain more when the time was right, and he accepted her answer. Christina noticed Olivia acting more relaxed and cheerful than usual. The group talked about the special crystal Ain had given, with Christina realizing it was a rare star crystal, not just an ordinary gift. Christina, smiling, pointed out that giving a star crystal is a proposal. Ain, Olivia, and everyone else were left shocked and speechless by the sudden realization. Ain panicked after realizing he accidentally proposed to Klain by giving her the star crystal. Klain happily accepted, while everyone else tried to make sense of the situation. Ain was left blushing and overwhelmed by what just happened. Ain learned about the water carriage, a unique vehicle in Ishtalika, powered by special stones. Olivia hugged Ain proudly, praising his intelligence, while Christina was impressed by his knowledge, believing he must be very smart. Christina told everyone to rest before arriving in Ishtalika. Ain almost let slip secrets from his past life, but Olivia hugged him proudly. The group enjoyed a peaceful trip, eating together, relaxing, and getting ready for the new chapter ahead. Ain, Olivia, and Christina arrived at the station on a luxurious steam train. As they stepped out, they were greeted by a huge, cheering crowd, amazed by the grand welcome awaiting them. Ain was amazed by Ishtalika, not just its advanced technology, but also its diverse people. He saw humans, demi-humans, fairies, and other races all living together, making the kingdom feel even more extraordinary. Ain and the others gazed in awe at the stunning city of Ishtalika, with its towering castle and beautiful scenery. Everything felt extraordinary and grand, leaving them speechless. Christina proudly announced her return as vice captain of the knights. Ain thought she looked impressive, but Olivia joked about her being clumsy. Christina then invited Olivia and Ain to enter the grand castle, warning them to watch their step. Olivia teased Ain to cheer him up after the recent chaos. Christina led them through the castle, admitting she hadn't informed the king about Olivia's sudden return, since it was all so unexpected. Olivia tried to lighten the mood, teasing Ain as they followed Christina through the castle. Christina admitted she hadn't told the king about Olivia's sudden return, since the orders came so quickly. Christina mentioned the king was in a meeting, and they debated whether to interrupt. Olivia confidently entered, announcing her return to her father, surprising everyone in the council room. Anne nervously faced the imposing king of Ishtalika, realizing just how important this meeting was. The king's presence filled the room, making a strong impression on Anne. Ain stood beside Olivia as the king examined him closely. The king was surprised by Ain's calmness under pressure, realizing he was no ordinary kid. Ain, meanwhile, was awed to finally meet such a powerful royal in person. Ain, feeling nervous, introduced himself to the king and mentioned his old family name, Roundarth. Olivia stood beside him, showing her support during the formal introduction. The king, Silvard von Ishtalika, tells Ain that he is not only the king, but also Ain's grandfather. Ain is surprised but happy, and the king smiles warmly at him. Ain is introduced to Lloyd Galatia, who leads justice and peace in Ishtalika. The king laughs, calling Lloyd his father, and Ain mentions his old family name, feeling a bit awkward. Olivia announces she's divorced and won't return to Heim anymore. The king calmly accepts it, but Lloyd is shocked and asks for the reason, while everyone reacts to the news. Olivia says her main reason for not returning is that she doesn't believe Ain would be happy staying in Heim. This shocks everyone, especially the king and Lloyd. The king immediately halts the meeting, instructs to keep everything discussed a secret, and demands Olivia explain everything later. He then orders to summon Warren and Kadima. Warren and Kadima arrive in the room. The atmosphere changes instantly. Their presence emanates an intense aura that disturbs Ain. Despite this, Lloyd tries to calm the boy, telling him that Warren is just a veteran knight and that everything will be quick. Meanwhile, Warren snaps his fingers confidently, ready for the mission. Ain is surprised to discover that the talking cat is actually the king's eldest daughter, Kadima von Ishtalika. She argues that he shouldn't be excluded from the inheritance just because of his powers inherited from his mother's line. Olivia reinforces that they shouldn't worry about Heim anymore. Kadima, direct and practical, asks the king's permission to explain everything to Ain personally. The Prime Minister Warren Lark begins explaining the truth behind Olivia's marriage. It wasn't out of love or alliance, but for the sea crystal, a rare resource possessed by the Heim kingdom that Ishtalika desired. These crystals, made from the bones of sea monsters, are essential for crafting magical tools in Ishtalika. As Ain listens, he realizes that what he once thought were ordinary magical tools from Heim were actually far more powerful and valuable than he ever imagined. Warren continues his explanation, revealing that Ishtalika's magical tools were superior because they used sea crystals' rare minerals once abundant, but now nearly exhausted. While other nations used weaker materials, Ishtalika developed unique methods to enhance the crystal's magical power, allowing widespread use of magic tools across the kingdom. However, as the supply dwindled, Ishtalika sought alliances to secure more, leading to Olivia's marriage with Heim. In exchange for the crystals, Ishtalika promised to protect Heim. Warren reminds that such duties, political, strategic, and heavy, are the burden of nobility. As the discussion shifts to finding new sources of sea crystals, Olivia calmly interrupts. She reminds them that her work in researching those sources is already complete. Her divorce, she explains, does not mean she has abandoned her duty. The revelation shocks everyone, while Ain realizes that his mother's role was far greater than he ever understood, tied not only to diplomacy but to the very survival of Ishtalika's magical power. Olivia presents her findings to the royal council, explaining that she had collaborated with merchants and adventurers to locate a new source of sea crystals. Her research led to an unexpected discovery, a western island nation beyond Heim called Euro. There, the crystals that were once buried deep beneath the sea had risen to the surface. Shock spreads through the room as the council realizes the implications. This discovery could change the balance of power and restore Ishtalika's dwindling magical resources. Ain reflects on his mother's dedication, realizing how much time and effort she devoted to her duties. Despite the hardships she faced and the unfair treatment after Grint's birth, she never stopped smiling. She was respected by everyone, admired for her grace and kindness, and always carried herself with quiet strength. Even while fulfilling her responsibilities as a noble and a mother, she never forgot him, always finding moments to stay by his side and share her warmth. Ain feels guilty, realizing he can't yet repay everything his mother has done for him. As he apologizes, the others watch silently, understanding the weight of his words. The king gently refuses his apology, making it clear that Ain is everything to them, a precious existence worth any effort or sacrifice, no matter how difficult. Olivia gently embraces Ain, her expression soft and full of warmth. In that quiet moment, she feels nothing but gratitude, thankful for having met him, for his existence, and for the bond they share as mother and son. Ain looks at his mother with admiration, feeling a deep respect for all her hard work. Around them, the others acknowledge Olivia's growth. Not only had she become more beautiful, but also stronger. The king, impressed by her dedication, decides to make good use of the moment to honor her efforts. Warren steps forward with official documents, explaining that the queen had already approved the matter, earning a satisfied smile from the king. The king sits solemnly before the gathered group, instructing everyone to sign the document before him. Olivia steps forward gracefully and places her signature, followed by the others. Even Kadima enthusiastically joins in, her cheerful attitude lightening the mood. As the formalities continue, Ain watches in confusion, unaware of what the document truly signifies, while Warren and Lloyd prepare to finalize it as official witnesses. Before the throne, the king rises with authority, declaring his decision in a powerful voice. Under his royal name, Silvard von Ishtalika officially proclaims Ain as a recognized member of the Ishtalika royal family. The announcement leaves Ain stunned, struggling to process what just happened. Realizing that his life has changed forever from this moment on, Ain reflects on his past, remembering how he was born as the child of a minor noble in a distant land and treated as insignificant by his own family. Yet now, before everyone in the royal court, his name is declared with pride, Ein von Ishtalika. In a single night, the boy once forgotten by his lineage is recognized as a true member of the grand royal family of Ishtalika. Before the grand throne, Ain stands frozen in disbelief as the king's powerful voice echoes through the hall. He has been appointed the crown prince of Ishtalika. The boy who once lived unnoticed now finds himself standing as the heir to the most powerful and undefeated kingdom in existence. In the bustling capital city of Ishtalika, news spreads quickly about Olivia's return after her divorce. The townspeople whisper in excitement, wondering about her son, Ein, who is now the newly appointed crown prince. Curiosity fills the air as everyone eagerly anticipates meeting the young heir who has suddenly become the talk of the entire kingdom. During a sparring session, Ain faces the mighty Grand Marshal Lloyd Galatia and manages to impress him with his swordsmanship. Lloyd acknowledges the prince's dedication and growth, recognizing the intense effort Ain has put into his training. Though proud of his progress, Ain can't help but feel conflicted, realizing that even his elder brother, who only recently began practicing, might already surpass him in skill. Ain reflects on his past, remembering how he once tried to earn his father's and others' approval, but was ultimately taken to Ishtalika by his mother. Now, as crown prince, he doubts whether the people will truly accept him. Holding an egg in his hand, he quietly wishes he had a talent or skill that could prove his worth, while Lloyd watches him in silence, sensing the boy's uncertainty. As Ain stands before Lloyd, the Grand Marshal notices a tear in the boy's clothes. Without hesitation, Lloyd retrieves a sewing kit and begins to repair it himself, surprising Ain. The sight of the mighty warrior carefully stitching fabric feels oddly out of place, leaving Ain both confused and amused by the unexpected gentleness behind the man's imposing presence. Lloyd suddenly channels immense energy, his movements bursting with intensity as dozens of spectral arms appear around him, each one working at lightning speed. In a blink, the tear in Ain's clothes is flawlessly mended. Ain looks down in disbelief, realizing that the intimidating Grand Marshal just repaired his outfit with surgical precision and superhuman speed. Lloyd proudly reveals that the skill he was born with is sewing, surprising Ain. Despite its humble nature, he explains how he mastered it through years of training, turning it into something extraordinary. Though it's far from a typical warrior's ability, Lloyd rose to the rank of Grand Marshal with determination and discipline. His words leave Ain both stunned and inspired, realizing strength can come from the most unexpected talents. Lloyd places a firm hand on Ain's shoulder, his expression serious yet warm. He tells the boy that effort is the true treasure that guides a person through anything. Encouraging him to keep pushing forward, Lloyd assures Ain that his worries will eventually fade if he continues to work hard. Ain listens quietly, the words settling deep within him as he begins to understand the weight and value of persistence. Ain is suddenly ambushed by Kadima, the energetic cat-girl princess, who leaps at him with excitement. Her sudden appearance catches him completely off guard as she drags him away at full speed. Lloyd watches the chaos unfold with a calm expression, simply acknowledging her as she disappears down the hall with Ain in tow. Ain finds himself in a large library, sitting across from Kadima, who looks quite pleased with herself. Still confused about being dragged away, he listens as she explains that Olivia had asked her to examine something related to him. Though her explanation is vague, Ain quickly realizes there's no escaping her curious and mischievous nature. As Ain spends time with Kadima and Christina in the library, the atmosphere becomes lighthearted and friendly. Kadima eagerly examines Ain's status card, curious about his abilities. To everyone's surprise, his stats have increased, and a mysterious new skill, Absorb, is listed among his abilities. The discovery leaves both girls intrigued, realizing there's far more to Ain than they initially thought. Kadima reveals that Ain inherited the racial traits of a dryad from his mother, Olivia. Shocked, Ain struggles to grasp the idea of being part dryad, one of the spirits of nature. Kadima, amused by his reaction, laughs playfully while explaining that he might even be able to grow roots from his body, just like Olivia, leaving Ain completely bewildered by this new revelation. Kadima explains that the Ishtalican royal family carries mixed bloodlines from various races, including humans, Kate Sith, and dryads. Because of this, descendants can inherit unexpected traits from ancient ancestors. As Ain listens, she points out something unusual. His stats have been rising too quickly. Shocked, Ain learns the reason. He has been unconsciously absorbing the magical energy from magic stones, a rare and powerful ability. Kadima explains that monsters grow stronger by consuming magic stones, though humans can't do the same, because of their toxic nature. However, with Ain's unique skill, Toxin Decomposition EX, he's able to safely absorb their power. Remembering a past incident, Ain confesses that he once licked a magic stone out of curiosity because it smelled sweet, unintentionally. Awakening this rare ability, Chris reveals that every demi-human, including elves like her, possesses a magic stone within their body. She believes Ain unknowingly absorbed the magic stone inside her, explaining his sudden power increase. Shocked, Ain tries to deny it, but the realization sets in. His absorption ability might even affect living beings, not just loose magic stones. Chris realizes that her sudden weakness began during their carriage ride to the capital, a result of Ain unintentionally draining her magic power. Kadima explains that Chris won't be harmed as long as Ain doesn't completely absorb her magic stone. Relieved, Ain calms down, while Kadima prepares to test her theory about his absorption ability with an experiment. Kadima sets up an experiment, instructing Ain to absorb the magic stones from 2 boxes, one filled with cheap stones and another with high-grade ones worth tens of thousands of gold. Ain starts with a cheap one, carefully absorbing its power. To everyone's surprise, he handles it easily, finishing the entire box without issue. Kadima, amused, asks if it tasted good, while Ain exhales in relief after completing the test. Ain curiously tries a high-grade magic stone next, wondering how it will taste. As he absorbs it, the stone's color fades, proof of its energy being drained. But soon after, he feels dizzy and sick, complaining that it tastes like walnut and that he dislikes it. Concerned, Kadima and Chris rush to check on him. Kadima then jokes, finding it funny that a dryad like Ain would dislike something that comes from a tree. Kadima starts explaining that Ain can't just absorb endless magic power without limits. Each type of magic stone has a cap that determines how much it can increase someone's stats, and the higher the stone's quality, the greater the boost. She adds that the high-grade stone Ain absorbed likely came from a powerful monster called the Black Fallen, which explains the strange reaction. Despite everything, Kadima laughs, saying Ain's abilities are already far from normal, while Ain admits it feels like he gained another skill. Ain recalls that the first time he used his Toxin Decomposition EX, he suffered a terrible headache, but now he feels perfectly fine. Kadima explains that it's thanks to his gift of training skill, which boosts his body's immunity and resistance to pain, making it highly compatible with his abilities. As they talk, the door opens, and Olivia, Ain's mother, enters gracefully. Surprised and emotional, Ain calls out to her, "Mother!" Olivia rushes to embrace Ain tightly, overjoyed to finally see him again. Ain blushes, embarrassed as everyone watches, while Kadima happily reports that the tests showed no issues with his condition. Relieved, Olivia smiles and immediately takes Ain by the hand, saying they have somewhere to go. As they walk through the palace halls, they arrive before the king. Olivia bows respectfully and apologizes for the delay, addressing him as her father. Ain, Olivia, and the king stand before an enormous ornate door, glowing with intricate patterns. Curious, Ain looks up and asks his grandfather what the place is. The king, with a calm yet solemn expression, explains that this is the castle's treasure room, a sacred place holding the most valuable artifacts of Ishtalika. As the heavy mechanism unlocks, the massive doors begin to open slowly before them. The massive doors open with a deep rumble, revealing shelves of treasures, gold, jewels, and ancient artifacts. Anne looks around in awe, confused about why they've come to such a sacred place. The king explains that Olivia had requested both an apology and a reward for all she endured. Turning to Ain, he says that Olivia's wish was for him to personally give something to her son. Ain, startled and unsure, wonders what kind of gift could possibly await him in such a place. The king presents Ain with Ishtalika's national treasure, Dullahan's magic stone, a massive gem radiating immense power. He explains that over 5 centuries ago, a demon lord appeared on the Ishtar continent, and among his fearsome followers was Dullahan, a warrior so strong he could tear apart the sky and sea with a single strike. Now, that same power rests sealed within the stone before them. Ain stares in disbelief, struggling to grasp that such a legendary artifact is meant for him. As the king speaks of the ancestor who defeated the demon lord and unified the kingdom, Ain listens in awe. Realizing everyone recognizes that hero's greatness, a strange warmth spreads through his chest, his heart racing as he grips his uniform tightly, unsure why he feels this way. Olivia smiles softly, suggesting they move on, while the king reminds her that even though the stone is called a national treasure, it's just one of many kept by the royal family. Ain, still overwhelmed, nods as the weight of his heritage begins to sink in. Ain steps forward toward the glowing relic as his heartbeat echoes in the vast hall. The king warns Olivia to stay back, explaining that even being near the stone's immense magic could affect her. She agrees, urging her father to retreat as well. Alone before the artifact, Ain feels its overwhelming energy pulsing through the air, each step heavier than the last. Ain steps closer to the glowing relic, its light reflecting in his eyes. The king and Olivia watch anxiously as he reaches out, noting how the poisonous aura of the magic stone vanishes completely around him. As Ain's hand touches the stone, raw power surges through him so immense it nearly overwhelms him. He feels the energy resonate deep within, and then a voice echoes faintly in his mind, ancient and distant. As Ain grips the magic stone, dark energy bursts out violently, spiraling around him like a storm. His eyes widen in shock as the overwhelming power engulfs him. Olivia calls out in fear, while the king quickly moves to shield her, shouting for her to stay back. The treasure room trembles as the unleashed force swirls uncontrollably around Ain, pulling everything toward its center. Ain struggles as waves of energy erupt from the magic stone, surrounding him in blinding light and crackling power. He realizes the energy isn't being absorbed, it's forcing itself into him. The ground shakes under the immense pressure, and the king yells for him to stop if anything feels wrong, his voice barely audible through the roar. Olivia shields her face from the violent surge, terrified as Ain's body glows brighter, caught between resistance and surrender. A blinding surge bursts from the magic stone as Ain's body glows with raw, unstable power. His hair lifts from the sheer force surrounding him, lightning flashing through the air. The king shields his eyes while Olivia clings to him, both struggling to withstand the violent storm of magic. The entire room shakes as the light grows stronger, swallowing everything in its brilliance. Ain clings to the stone as waves of energy explode outward, wrapping his body in light. The power floods through him uncontrollably, tearing at the air around. The king and Olivia brace themselves, shielding their faces from the blinding surge, while the room is engulfed in swirling magic and roaring wind. As the storm of energy fades, Ain stands surrounded by lingering sparks of magic, his body trembling with newfound strength. He stares at his hands in disbelief, feeling immense power coursing through him. His status has skyrocketed, his stamina, magic, and defense soaring far beyond human limits. The aura around him pulses with dark energy, marking the birth of a new power within the Crown Prince of Ishtalika. Under the moonlit sky, a girl stands on the balcony of the august Archduke's residence, her gaze fixed on the stars. She clutches her chest softly, whispering Ain's name as if reaching out across the distance. The wind stirs her hair as she vows to meet him again someday, her heart carrying that promise into the night, like a silent message drifting through the starry sky. Alone in her room, the girl sits under the quiet glow of the moon, holding a small keepsake from Ain. She stares at it softly, his smiling face lingering in her mind. A sigh escapes her as she rests her head on the desk, feeling the weight of his absence. It's so unfair, she thinks. The gift clutched close its warmth, the only thing left of him tonight. A maid enters Klon's room to check on her homework progress, as requested by her father. Calmly, Klon responds that she's already finished everything. Surprised, the maid mentions it was meant to take a week, but Klon just smiles, saying she completed it in a few days because she focused hard. She then asks her to tell her father to prepare something more challenging next time, her expression showing quiet confidence. Klon reflects on her progress, determined to grow stronger, so she can proudly stand beside Ain the next time they meet. The maid, amazed at how much work Klon completed in just 2 days, promises to deliver her message. Then, she adds that the Grandmaster also sent word he wants her to write a letter to Ain. Klon freezes for a moment, her face lighting up in surprise before she quickly regains composure, pretending to sigh in exasperation as she tells the maid to just add whatever new lessons he wants, like horse riding or dancing to her schedule. Flustered, Klon rushes around the room, panicking about writing her first letter to Ain. She insists on finding the most beautiful paper and pen, declaring it far more important than homework. Holding the blank sheet, she blushes deeply, unsure what to write, realizing she's never written to a boy before. Her maid watches, amused, giggling softly at her lady's rare nervousness, while Klon protests, insisting she's completely serious about it. Klon, clutching her letter, suddenly dashes down the hallway, thanking her maid as she runs to find the Grandmaster. The maid yells after her, saying there's no need to hurry, he's not going anywhere. But Klon doesn't stop. Her thoughts are full of Ain. As she moves, she thinks about all the things she wants to tell him. Her her expression soft and longing. The scene ends with her gazing at the moonlit sky, wondering what Ain might be doing at that very moment. After absorbing the national treasure, Ain stands before his family, his body radiating newfound strength. Olivia embraces him proudly, overjoyed at how much he's grown, while his grandfather studies the results with admiration, calling his power splendid and worthy of someone who's absorbed such a relic. Despite the praise, the old man reminds Ain to stay humble. Power alone isn't enough, unless he becomes a vessel strong enough to handle it. Ain listens seriously and nods, fully understanding the weight of his words. The king remarks that everything seems to have gone as Olivia planned, hinting she foresaw today's outcome since her divorce. He questions why she hid Ain's power to absorb magic stones, knowing how much she loves him. Olivia lowers her gaze, admitting that at first, she only thought about fulfilling her duty as royalty. But after marrying into the Roundheart family, her trust in them made her uncertain about the future. She grips her dress tightly, showing the weight of her choices, while Ain watches her silently, sensing the emotions behind her words. Olivia finally admits the truth. She never had the courage to root with Logus, her husband. Shock spreads through the room as she confesses that Ain was born as a dryad, not fully human. Her father's eyes widen in realization, understanding the depth of her decision. Ain stands silent, confused, but sensing the gravity of her words. Olivia lowers her head, apologizing to her father, admitting that once she decided on the divorce, everything that happened today had already been part of her plan. After Olivia's confession, the king calmly tells Ain that he needs a private word with her. Ain hesitates but nods in understanding before quietly leaving the hall. As he walks away, the two remain behind, now seated together on a balcony overlooking the city. The mood turns heavy yet peaceful. A conversation long overdue is about to begin between father and daughter. The king and Kadamar share tea while discussing Olivia's situation. The king admits that marrying her into the Roundheart family was likely a mistake, especially with the Dryad bloodline involved. Ain, confused by the complex talk, asks what root even means. Kadamar bursts out laughing and bluntly explains it means making a child, causing the king to choke on his drink and scold her for being too straightforward. Kadamar explains that for dryads, forming a relationship is a lifelong bond shared with only one person, making it a deeply serious matter compared to other races. Ain reacts in shock, while the king confirms it's true. Kadamar continues, saying dryads can bear a child without a partner, revealing how Olivia could give birth to Ain alone. Ain, still confused, wonders aloud what that means for him and his origin. Kadamar explains that Ain was born solely from Olivia, more precisely from a part of her own body, her stump. The king adds that Olivia, though bound by royal duty to produce heirs, couldn't take her relationship lightly because of her dryad nature. Kadamar notes that dryads possess a hypnotic charm, likely how Olivia managed her marriage. The king reflects that Olivia's choice to act on her own was difficult, while Ain quietly accepts the truth about his unique birth. Ain calmly says he doesn't care what others think about his mother, believing she went through a lot to give birth to him. The king adds that Olivia's actions were difficult but justified, as the Roundheart family broke their agreement to make her child the next heir. Feeling relieved, Ain's stomach growls, and Kadamar laughs, impressed by how composed he remains despite everything. The king warns Ain about a dangerous relic in the audience hall, the Demon King's magic stone, kept as a national treasure. Kadamar sternly tells him never to enter that hall, even by mistake. Shocked, Ain realizes it's from the same Demon King his ancestor defeated. Kadamar explains that because Ain unconsciously absorbs magic stones when hungry, he could accidentally consume it, making the situation disastrous. Ain mentions hearing from his mother that the first king was a hero acknowledged by all. Kadamar confirms it, saying the king was admired for both strength and kindness, a true champion. Curious, Ain asks if such a person would be famous even in other nations, and Kadamar replies that every country in the world knows of the first king's glory. Ain reflects on everything his mother has done for him and feels guilty for not repaying her. Unsure if his strength or title as crown prince defines him, he struggles with his sense of worth. Then, with determination, he declares his desire to prove himself and show the Roundheart family who mistreated his mother just how valuable he truly is. With resolve burning in his eyes, Ain stands up and shouts his goal to become a great king, one capable of standing equal to the legendary first king. His voice echoes with determination, marking the beginning of his true ambition. Ain hesitates, wondering if his dream of matching the first king sounds arrogant, but the old man reassures him it's not disrespectful at all. With a calm smile, he offers to guide Ain personally, entrusting swordsmanship to others. Grateful and determined, Ain accepts eagerly, ready to begin his training that very night. The energetic cat-eared woman suddenly grabs Ain, excited to analyze his newfound power, dragging him off before he can protest. Amid the chaos, the elder watches with a gentle smile, remarking that Ain resembles someone dear from the past, his expression softening with quiet nostalgia. Months pass in peace, and summer arrives in Ishtalika. Ain, now more confident and composed, reflects on his time there, 8 months, filled with growth and training. As he stands under the sun, a faint smile crosses his face, ready for what's ahead as someone calls out to him. Ain's training intensifies, as he's taken to a forest where real monsters roam. His mentors warn him that, unlike practice matches, these creatures will truly aim to kill. Moments later, the bushes rustle and a massive beast emerges, its claws digging into the ground as Ain braces himself, nerves tightening. Ain faces his first real battle, a huge, snarling forest rat. His mentors watch closely as he insists on handling it alone, determined to prove himself. Studying the creature's sharp claws and teeth, he steadies his stance, aware that even a single mistake could cost him dearly. Ain swiftly takes down the first monster, standing firm and unfazed. Confidence fills his eyes as he readies his stance again. More creatures emerge from the shadows, but instead of backing down, he smirks, ready to keep fighting, determined to push himself further. After defeating several monsters, Ain stands proudly among their fallen bodies, confidence glowing on his face as his mentors praise his progress. But as the laughter fades, a faint twitch from one of the corpses catches his eye, a silent warning that the fight might not be over yet. The supposedly defeated monster lunges at Ain with terrifying speed, but he reacts instantly, slicing through it in one clean motion. The creature bursts apart, leaving everyone speechless at his reflexes and precision. Ain stands firm, his calm expression showing just how much he's already grown. Ain reveals his new ability, Phantom Hand, the power inherited from the Dullahan. A dark, ethereal arm extends from his own, pulsing with magic energy. He explains that he can control its shape and strength through his mana, and with the custom-made nail Kadimia gave him, its potential grows even further. It's the only Black Knight skill he's mastered so far, but one that clearly shows his rapid progress. Ain tests a new technique using the Phantom Hand, stabbing a monster and draining its magic stone even while it's still alive. He calls the ability Pitch Black Straw, amazed by its power and unique taste of magic essence. His mentors watch in disbelief, impressed, yet uneasy, realizing that what Ain wields is both incredible and terrifying. While riding through town with Chris and Lloyd, Ain spots a familiar store and points it out. Chris explains that it's Magilis, a famous magic stone shop that even supplies the castle. Curious and excited, Ain eagerly accepts Lloyd's offer to go inside and take a look. Lloyd stays behind to avoid drawing attention, asking Chris to escort Ain into the shop discreetly since his identity hasn't been officially announced yet. Wrapped in a cloak to hide his royal status, Ain follows Chris as they enter the magic stone store, unaware of the quiet observer watching them from inside. Inside the shop, Ain and Chris are greeted by the flamboyant and confident shopmaster, who welcomes them warmly while striking a dramatic pose. His heavy makeup and extravagant presence immediately catch Ain's attention, leaving the boy a bit overwhelmed by the unexpected sight. Chris accompanied the boy to a well-known magic stone shop. Though hesitant, she reassured him that the owner, despite being eccentric, was trustworthy and kind. Inside, a woman recognized Chris, addressing her with a smile. It had been some time since they last met. The woman teased her about acting as the boy's bodyguard, while Chris tried to keep her composure. The shopkeeper welcomed them warmly, amused by their unexpected visit. Feeling slightly out of place, the boy quietly apologized and followed Chris deeper into the shop. The boy explained his interest in seeing magic stones, which caught the shopkeeper's attention. She looked intrigued and praised his curiosity, noting how rare it was for someone so young. Her demeanor softened as she expressed a desire to become friends, though the boy remained shy. She then allowed them to explore the shop freely, warning them not to touch the stones or crystals, as some could be dangerous. Chris quietly assured her understanding as they began to look around. The boy observed the glowing stones on display, their energy faintly crackling in the air. Thanks to his absorption suppression training, he could now sense only light traces of magic around him. He remembered how, before training, even a cheap stone's scent was so strong it overwhelmed him. As he continued browsing, one item caught his eye, a strange piece labeled as steak. The shopkeeper explained that the stone came from a white wyvern, a creature prized for its meat. Curious, the boy decided to buy it immediately, surprising Chris. The seller offered a discount out of respect for her. Chris reminded the boy to keep his identity and abilities secret. He mentioned using his recent allowance from his grandfather, and she agreed it was fine if it made him happy. With a small smile, he prepared to make the purchase. The boy eagerly picked out several magic stones, his excitement growing with each choice. The total quickly reached a large sum, leaving Chris visibly overwhelmed by how much he was spending. The shopkeeper smiled and began wrapping the purchases carefully. As they prepared to leave, the boy could barely contain his anticipation, already thinking about testing and absorbing the stones once they returned to the castle. As the boy wandered through the shop, his eyes caught a strange glow coming from a pedestal. Drawn to it, he approached and saw a dark, ominous crystal displayed under glass. The air around it felt heavy, its presence unlike any other stone he'd seen. A chill ran down his spine as he realized what it was: the magic stone known as the Accursed Jewel. The shopkeeper explained the legend of the Accursed Jewel, said to whisper to its owner and invade their dreams. Chris noted that the case containing it was designed to suppress its power. The boy listened, curious, but unconvinced. Though he sensed something from the stone, it didn't feel malevolent to him. The boy, intrigued by the dark crystal, calmly asked if it could be purchased along with its sealed case. His question shocked everyone in the room. The shopkeeper froze, unsure how to respond, while Chris panicked and rushed toward him, begging him to stop before something terrible happened. The tension thickened as silence filled the shop. The shopkeeper agreed to sell the sealed stone, charging only for the display case. The boy calmly confirmed his decision, assuring everyone it was by his own will. Chris hesitated, torn between worry and duty, but finally gave in, realizing she couldn't stop him. The boy handed over the payment, determined yet uneasy, while Chris sighed in quiet resignation beside him. As the shopkeeper prepared the boy's purchase, he wandered off to inspect more stones. His cheerful tone contrasted with Chris's growing unease. The shopkeeper teased her, noting how bold the young prince was, while Chris froze, realizing her earlier words had exposed his identity. Trying to cover her panic, she stumbled through excuses, but the damage was already done as the atmosphere turned tense. As they prepared to leave, Chris nervously begged the shopkeeper to keep the prince's identity a secret. The shopkeeper promised not to tell, teasing her for being terrible at hiding things. Outside, the boy cheerfully remarked how much he enjoyed the visit. Chris tried to hide her flustered expression, claiming she just had dirt in her eyes, though her red face told another story. After returning to the castle, the boy finally relaxed, relieved to rest after a long day. The night settled quietly over the city when a soft knock came at his door. A young maid entered with a gentle smile, offering to help him change clothes. Recognizing her, the boy greeted her warmly. She was Marche, someone he clearly trusted. The boy hesitated, insisting he could handle changing on his own, but Marche gently reminded him it was her duty as his mother's personal servant to care for him as well. Her calm smile carried an intensity that left him flustered. Before leaving, she handed him a sealed letter, saying it was meant specifically for him. Curious, he opened it, noticing there was no sign of who had sent it. Marsh explained that the letter had come from a noble family in the Heim Kingdom, but was routed through the Euro Kingdom to reach them. She reminded him that Ishtalika had cut all ties with Heim due to past conflicts involving him and Olivia. The boy grew tense, wondering why such a letter would be sent to him. Suspicious of its intent, he considered destroying it, convinced nothing good could come from Heim. The letter was written with deep emotion, recalling a precious night and a cherished gift, a flower once given by the boy. The writer spoke of treasuring that memory above all else, calling it brighter than any jewel. As he read, realization struck him. There was only one person he had ever given a flower to. Shocked, he recognized the handwriting. There was no doubt about it. The letter was from her. As he continued reading, the letter's tone grew hopeful. The writer expressed regret for hiding her name, but promised to reveal it if Ishtalika ever welcomed her. Realization struck the boy. Her words hinted at something more. His heart raced as the truth sank in. Klon, the girl from his past, was planning to come to Ishtalika. The letter's final words revealed the writer's intent. She wished to come to Ishtalika, but would only reveal her name once accepted there. The boy's heart pounded as the truth hit him. There was no mistake. Klon, the girl who once held his flower, was planning to visit Ishtalika. Still holding the letter, the boy decided he would send a reply, explaining that Klon had always treated him and his mother kindly. Marche expressed concern about the difficulties of someone from Heim entering Ishtalika, but he remained optimistic. He reasoned that if the visitor maintained a good relationship with Olivia, it could be arranged. Smiling with relief, Marche agreed it was good news indeed. Standing by the window under the moonlight, the boy softly repeated her name, Klon. Memories of their past together surfaced. The moment they exchanged gifts and smiles, as he gazed into the night, a quiet hope filled his heart. As time passed and autumn arrived, the air turned cool and brisk. The boy continued his training, facing off against a knight in a sparring match. From the sidelines, his friends cheered him on, shouting encouragement. With determination in his eyes, he moved forward, ready to prove how much stronger he had become. During the match, the knight charged forward, shouting his intent to win. He raised his blade high, aiming for a decisive strike, but the boy stayed calm and read his movement perfectly. At the last moment, the boy slid to the side, dodging the attack. Realizing too late that his move had been anticipated, the knight's expression shifted from confidence to surprise as the duel turned in the boy's favor. With one swift move, the boy disarmed his opponent, ending the match in victory. The knight admitted defeat as the crowd erupted in cheers. Breathing hard but smiling, the boy ran to his mother, proudly announcing his win. She praised him warmly, saying he fought bravely despite his injuries. The knight praised the boy's growth, explaining that his unique ability, the gift of training, allowed him to grow stronger through effort alone. His recent victory was proof of his own hard work and determination. Encouraged by his progress, the knight proposed a new challenge to help him improve even further. The boy hesitated for a moment, uncertain of what awaited him. As the knight smiled confidently, ready for their next training session, a sudden tremor shook the ground, followed by smoke rising from the castle in the distance. People turned in confusion, unsure if it was an earthquake or an explosion. Back at the training grounds, the aftermath of a powerful strike left the area in ruins. Exhausted from the battle, the boy sat trembling as his companions rushed to check on him. The knight laughed proudly, impressed by how much the boy had grown, comparing his strength to that of the first king. Chris offered him water, but he warned her to stay back, fearing he might accidentally absorb her magic again. Embarrassed, she quickly stepped away, flustered by the thought. Training ended for the day, and the group discussed the boy's future. Olivia suggested it was time for him to start preparing for the academy, since he'd be attending that winter. Surprised at first, the boy realized it was an important next step. Olivia smiled, encouraging him to get ready for this new chapter. The boy thought about his upcoming academy life, feeling a bit anxious about going as the crown prince. Olivia reassured him, reminding him that her father was on the academy board and travel would be safe. Chris interrupted, asking if he wanted to take a stroll to ease his nerves. He considered her offer, grateful for the support as he faced these new changes. Chris took the boy to a quiet beach hidden behind the castle, surprising him with its beauty. She explained the beach was rarely used, mainly kept for emergencies. As they enjoyed the view, Chris asked about his plans for the academy entrance exam. He said he planned to focus on swordsmanship, feeling confident after defeating the knights. Chris encouraged him, believing he'd do well. While walking along the beach, the boy asked Chris if she and Lloyd could defeat her father, Logus. Chris paused, then decided to demonstrate something instead. She prepared to drop her sword on the ground and told him to watch closely, instructing him not to lose sight of where it landed. The boy nodded, focusing on her next move. Chris casually dropped her sword, telling the boy to pay attention. While he focused on where the sword landed, Chris silently moved behind him, surprising him when she suddenly appeared at his side. He was shocked at how quickly and quietly she'd moved, realizing her skill went far beyond what he expected. Chris explained she had moved the instant the sword hit the ground, showing just how fast she was. She said even Logus wouldn't be able to follow her movements, and mentioned Lloyd could defeat him in a direct fight. The boy realized how tough it would be to reach their level, but he felt motivated. Grateful for the encouragement and the break before his exam, he thanked Chris, who smiled, happy to have helped him relax. As the wind picked up, Chris's hair ribbon came loose. The boy watched quietly, feeling a little flustered by the moment. Chris noticed and quickly apologized, saying she'd tie it back right away. He brushed off his reaction, just thinking to himself how clever Chris could be sometimes. The boy arrived at the academy district by train, amazed by the large crowd. The area was busy, filled with students, guardians, and researchers. His companion explained that the district was always bustling because it attracted so many different people. The boy took it all in, realizing he was finally at the academy. The boy finally stood before the impressive Royal Kingsland Academy, ready to take his entrance exam. Chris wished him luck as he headed toward the test hall, feeling determined to do his best. As the boy entered the academy, he saw someone suddenly fall right in front of him. He quickly asked if they were okay, but the person seemed upset and frustrated. Nearby, another student scolded them for lacking motivation. The boy wondered if this person was someone important or familiar. The boy realized the strict man in front of the group was actually the examiner. The examiner was blunt and tough with his words, clearly trying to test the students' resolve as well as their skills. Before the test, the rules were explained. No one was allowed to state their name to keep things fair for everyone. The boy prepared himself, knowing this exam would challenge both his body and his mind. The exam tested sword skills, martial arts, and even allowed some special abilities as long as they weren't projectile attacks. The examiner harshly criticized each student's movements, calling them failures. As the line thinned, the boy stepped up, determined to prove himself using only his sword. The boy faces the examiner in the arena, both ready with their swords. The examiner taunts him, daring the boy to try and earn his approval for entry. The boy charges at the examiner with speed and determination. He dodges a strike and tries to land a hit, impressing the examiner, who admits the boy is better than expected. The fight is intense and fast-paced. The boy dodges a powerful attack and quickly moves around, trying to use his smaller size to confuse the examiner. He thinks about keeping the examiner guessing and goes in for another move, aiming to strike at the right moment. The boy tries to attack but gets pushed back. The examiner, unimpressed, points out that the boy is relying too much on his status and lacks proper technique. The boy realizes the examiner is even stronger than the knights. The examiner mocks his skills, saying tricks won't work on him, and insults the boy's teacher. The boy tries to stay calm, knowing his goal is just to pass the exam, not win the fight. The examiner tells the boy he won't go easy on him, challenging him to quit. The boy refuses and wants to continue. The examiner insults the boy, saying he must have been raised by a foolish parent, and says he'll educate him. The boy stays focused, ready for what's next. The boy thinks about the examiner's words, realizing he can ignore insults toward himself, but not when his mother and his teachers are insulted. He gets determined, ready to show his true effort in the fight. Ain gets serious, unleashing his powerful skill, Phantom's Hand from Black Knight. Dark spectral hands appear behind him, crackling with energy, catching everyone off guard, including the examiner, who is shocked by the sudden display of power. The examiner demands an explanation about the phantom hands, shocked by their appearance. Ain stands firm, showing no hesitation and refusing to back down, making it clear he never heard of any rule against his skill. He's completely focused, ready for the next move. Two fighters face each other in the arena. One of them has two snake-like arms and looks calm, while the other gets fired up and charges in with his sword. The calm fighter thinks that just having more arms doesn't really make someone stronger. The clash is about to start. The fighter with the snake-like arms launches a rapid attack, swinging both arms at his opponent. The other guy dodges quickly, moving around to avoid each strike. Even though the number of attacks has gone up, the one dodging seems to keep up, slipping past each hit with fast movements. The exchange is quick, with both showing off their skills. The fighter with the eye patch smashes the ground with force, blocking the snake-like arms. He looks confident, barely bothered by the attacks. The other fighter, breathing heavily, starts to realize that even with the extra arms, his moves are being countered without much trouble. Seeing his attacks aren't working, the smaller fighter powers up his snake-like arms with even more magic, making them bigger and more intense. Sparks fly as he gets ready for another move. The eye patch fighter notices this change, looking both surprised and excited to see his opponent raise the stakes. The powered-up arms smash through the ground, tearing up the arena as rocks fly everywhere. The fighter with the sword tries to keep up, realizing the attacks have gotten much faster and can even destroy the field itself. He struggles to block and dodge, barely managing to react in time. The fight gets more intense as the smaller fighter leaps high and comes down with a shout, aiming a direct attack. The sword fighter reacts, but after seeing the powered-up hand, his movements seem slower. The clash ends with the smaller fighter landing a strong hit right on target. The smaller fighter suddenly jumps up and grabs onto his opponent's sword, locking it in place with both hands. The sword fighter struggles to break free, caught off guard by the move. The atmosphere shifts as the tables turn, and the smaller fighter gets ready to use his next attack. The sword fighter smashes the ground with force, trying to shake off his opponent, but the smaller fighter hangs on. With a burst of strength, the smaller one lifts himself up, not backing down. Both push against each other with everything they've got, refusing to give in. The smaller fighter unleashes a strong attack with his magic arm, but the sword fighter blocks it head-on, shattering the ground. Both of them are shocked by the impact, one surprised the attack was blocked, the other pushing through the pain. The struggle leaves them both exhausted, but neither is willing to quit. The smaller fighter unleashes another big attack with both magic arms, smashing the ground and sending up a huge cloud of dust and debris. As the dust settles, he's left panting and worn out, but still standing with his magic arms at the ready. The sword fighter gets up from the rubble, amazed by the kid's strength and endurance. He's never faced someone like this before. The smaller fighter, also surprised, realizes his opponent is still standing and thinks how strong he must be. The whole testing ground is wrecked, something that's never happened before. The fight is intense enough that they can't even continue the test. After the fight, the smaller fighter quickly apologizes, feeling embarrassed for losing control and causing so much damage. He bows, thinking he probably failed the test by going overboard. The sword fighter looks at him in silence for a moment, while the smaller fighter worries about what will happen next. Instead of being angry, the sword fighter hands over a certificate, letting the kid know he passed the test. He says he understands the anger was for a good reason, and that both of them had their moments during the fight. The kid is surprised but relieved, holding the certificate tightly. Both fighters share a small moment of respect after the intense battle. The kid stands there in shock for a moment, then smiles with relief. After bowing one last time, he watches the sword fighter walk away. Excited and happy, he runs outside holding his certificate, ready to share the news that he passed the test. After passing the test, the kid is greeted by a group who congratulate him. One of them, clearly annoyed, asks if he's mad and confronts him for using a special skill he promised not to show others. The kid, looking nervous, apologizes and tries to explain, realizing they sensed his power even from a distance. The girl gets embarrassed, blushing as she talks to the kid. She admits she can't ignore that he used his special skill, even if it was just for the test. She warns him that the skill shouldn't be used so easily, getting flustered as she scolds him. The kid quietly listens, thinking about how to handle the situation next. The kid worries about hurting the examiner during the test, but the girl reassures him there's a healer at the academy, and the examiners are tough. They're actually former adventurers used to fighting. She even jokes that hurting such a strong examiner should earn extra points, but she also warns him that what happened will reach the king, so he should be ready for any consequences. The kid nods, realizing things just got a bit more serious. A few days later, Ein sits at a table while getting a lecture from his father for what happened during the test. His mother stands nearby, watching. After the scolding, Ein's grandfather steps in, and the atmosphere softens. Ein apologizes, and his grandfather decides to let the matter drop. Ein's family talks about how he needs to start acting like royalty, even though he's only 7 years old. His grandfather announces that Ein will take part in public duties in the port town, Magna. This will be Ein's first official job as a royal, and his mother is excited for him. Ein is surprised, but listens seriously to the news. Ein thinks quietly about what public affairs might mean for him. Outside, the view shifts to a peaceful harbor, with a ship docked by the water. His mother and grandfather decide to head back inside, leaving Ein deep in thought about his new responsibilities. An is brought to the harbor with his family and shown the country's massive battleships, which are a source of national pride. He's told these ships are used to protect the borders, and that Magna also has a big navy base. Ein is impressed by the sheer size and number of the ships. Ein arrives in the port town of Magna, one of the biggest cities in Ishtalika. The area is busy with fishing ships selling their catch at the market, and the navy base is close by. Ein's main job is to inspect the battleships, but he's also asked to check on the first batch of sea crystals, which came from a contract involving his mother. He keeps an eye on the city's overall condition as well. Ein is shown some unprocessed sea crystals by Chris and another staff member. Chris quickly slices open a crate to reveal the contents, moving so fast that Ein can't tell if it was magic or pure skill. As always, he's impressed by how smoothly she handles things. Ein checks out the sea crystals, noting they look like hardened salt. After finishing his public affairs work, he thanks everyone for the experience. Later, Ein asks if he can look around for a souvenir for his mother, since she was sad she couldn't join him on this trip. His grandfather happily agrees, and everyone relaxes together. Ein's mother had been upset about not joining the trip, but cheered up after reading a letter from his grandfather. As the day winds down, Ein says he'll take the chance to visit the pier and watch the sea. Meanwhile, his grandfather has something to check with Chris about the ships, so Ein agrees to wait before heading out to the city. Chris insists that Ein wear a special pendant called the Great Earth Ruby, a powerful magic tool made from a dragon core that protects the wearer's life. Even though they're inside the Navy base, she's worried about his safety. Ein agrees to wear it and promises not to wander too far while he waits. Ein stands on the pier, enjoying the clear sky and warm autumn weather. He watches the fish swimming below and thinks to himself that it's a perfect day for a nap. He jokes that if he weren't a crown prince, he'd just lay down and sleep right there. Ein looks around and realizes no one would notice if he took a nap right now. He finds a nice shady spot beside a crate, lays down, and gets comfortable. Thinking that he's not officially crown prince yet, he figures this might be his last chance to relax like this. He enjoys the peaceful moment, happy with his choice. Ein lays back and relaxes, listening to the sound of the waves, which makes him feel sleepy. The peaceful setting feels nostalgic to him, reminding him of another port town called Roundheart. As he drifts off, the waves act like a lullaby, and he quietly falls asleep. Ein dreams about running through a field of flowers with his mother. He picks a flower and enjoys its scent, telling his mother how good it smells. As he brings it closer, he suddenly sneezes, making both of them laugh and share a happy moment together. Ein wakes up confused, feeling someone's lap and noticing a familiar floral scent. For a moment, he wonders if he's still dreaming about his mother. Everything seems blurry as he tries to figure out what's real. The woman gently asks what he'll say first if it's been a while, or if he'll thank her for letting him use her lap as a pillow. Ein looks up, still unsure if he's awake or dreaming. An realizes he's resting on Klon's lap. She gently asks if he wants water, showing care for him. Both of them enjoy the peaceful moment together on the pier, quietly appreciating each other's company while looking out at the water. Ain and Klon sit together by the water, catching up and sharing how surprised they were to learn about each other's lives. Ain being royalty, and Klon moving to another continent. They laugh and enjoy the conversation. Klon explains she isn't alone. She came with her grandfather, Archduke Auguste, and some servants, pointing them out nearby. Klon explains her grandfather is now the former Archduke, having passed on the title to her father due to old age. She describes their journey. After her grandfather's retirement, he took her to the trading city of Birdland, where something happened, and they went missing for a while. Thanks to Olivia-sama's help, they got a ship from Euro to Ishtalika. Because of political reasons, they keep the details quiet, since having an archduke from another country visit could cause problems. Ain apologizes, but Klon tells him not to worry. Chris finishes her work and joins Ain and Klon at the pier. After introductions, Chris gives Ain a sharp glare for taking a nap outside, making him flustered. Chris then invites Klon to join them as they get ready to head into Magna City together. Klon happily agrees, and the group prepares to leave, with Ain promising not to doze off like that again. Klon respectfully asks Ain if she can accompany him, calling him Your Highness, Crown Prince. Ain, surprised but happy, accepts her offer. They share a formal handshake, both smiling as they get ready to head out together. Late at night, Klon and the second princess have tea together. The princess thanks Klon for her help and for arranging their stay. Klon says it's fine and admits she'd rather be called by her name, just like before. The mood is friendly and relaxed as they talk openly, wanting to keep things casual despite their royal titles. As they share tea, Olivia-sama gently asks Klon what her plans are for the future. Klon is surprised by the question but listens closely, understanding that Olivia is interested in what she wants to do next. The conversation turns thoughtful as Klon starts to consider her own path from here on out. Olivia tells Klon there's no need to hide anything since it's just the two of them. Klon remembers how Warren once asked why they came to Ishtalika. This time Olivia's question feels more personal. Klon answers honestly, saying she crossed the sea because she wanted to meet the Crown Prince, showing her true feelings and intentions. Olivia asks Klon if she plans to stay in Ishtalika for the rest of her life, wanting to know about Klon's intentions with Ain. Klon admits she's not sure if she's qualified to answer, but says she was ready for that choice from the moment she left her home, showing she's already committed to this new life. Olivia gets excited and says there's no problem, then invites Klon to attend an all-girls academy directed by the Queen, her mother. Olivia explains it's not the same academy as Ain's, but says it's the best place for Klon to improve herself. She encourages Klon to shine bright, saying no one will be able to deny her. Olivia reaches out to Klon, asking to help her shine. Klon, holding back tears, agrees with a grateful yes. Ain is in the library, studying late at night, working hard through a stack of books. Marsh worries about him, but Ain says he'll do one more batch of work and thanks her. An is focused on his studies when someone sneaks up behind him and whispers, startling him so much that he jumps. The lesson ends with Ain stretching and looking tired but determined after a long session of studying. Klon teases Ain for overreacting when she appears behind him. Ain is surprised and asks why she's there. Klon says she finished her own studies and wanted to check on him. She mentions that he was so focused he didn't even notice her coming in, and jokes that she'd prefer a more normal greeting next time. Ain asks Klon if she's going to sleep soon, and she says she was actually about to take a bath. She tells Ain that the bath is big, and he should enjoy it too. Then, out of nowhere, Klon asks if he wants to go together, which totally catches Ain off guard. He gets super flustered. Klon shows up in a fancy dress, saying she was late because she had to help her grandfather greet people. Ain is a bit stunned and tells her the dress looks really good on her. Klon thanks him and says he looks cool in formal wear too. At the party, Klon is impressed by everything in Ishtalika. She thinks the party is gorgeous. The city lights at night are beautiful, and even commoners can ride on the water train. She's surprised by how magic stones are used every day in this country, and she's especially focused on how they're treated. Ain is surprised because commoners in Heim can't work at parties like this. He mentions it's his first party since nothing about him has been announced yet. Klon asks about the announcement date, and Ain says it should be around next spring, before she enrolls in the academy. They joke about preparing a speech, and Ain thinks he should learn to talk more like an elder, maybe even like the first king, while Klon suggests he could take inspiration from someone he looks up to. The mood is pretty light and relaxed. Some nobles at the party are annoyed that someone from Heim was invited, saying they'll dirty the castle. Ain and Klon overhear this and wonder about the Prime Minister's intentions. Despite the gossip, Klon smiles and tells Ain she's okay, suggesting they just enjoy the party. She then takes his hand, trying to keep things light. Klon leaves Ain for a moment, saying she spotted some good food and will bring some back. Ain is then approached by his grandfather, who asks where Klon is. Ain explains she went to get something to eat. His grandfather then hints that the king has prepared a special gift for Ain at the party and tells him to look forward to it. Ain's grandfather tells him that the king feels bad about what happened at the party in Heim. He mentions he thought it would be a good idea to announce Ain at this party, but something interrupts their conversation. Suddenly, a plate drops and shatters, catching Ain's attention. A nobleman angrily confronts Klon at the party, calling her a country bumpkin from Heim and demanding to know how she dares to show up. The mood in the room gets tense, and Ain's grandfather comments on how stubborn this noble is, deciding to step in and handle the situation. Klon looks uncomfortable and worried as this is happening. The nobleman tries to intimidate Klon and reaches his hand toward her, saying he'll show her her place. Ain quickly steps in, grabs the man's wrist, and stops him. Ain calmly asks if the man has any business with his guest, making it clear that he's protecting Klon. Ain steps in to defend Klon, saying she's the Prime Minister's guest. The nobleman mocks Ain for interrupting and says it's normal to hate people from Heim if you care about Ishtalika. Ain tells him there's a line he shouldn't cross, but the nobleman ignores it and talks about holding a grudge. Klon tries to stop Ain, and the other guests start whispering about how they can't forgive what Heim did to Olivia-sama, even though Heim is just an inferior country. Ain remembers when he and his mother had nowhere to belong and how she saved him by taking him away from Heim. He thinks it's not Klon's fault everything's like this, because he lacks the power to be recognized. Determined, he decides that this time, he'll use his own strength to do something about it. He grips Klon's hand, ready to act. Ain stands in front of Klon and tells everyone that if they have a grudge against Heim, they should direct those feelings at him instead. Klon looks surprised by his bold move. The whole room reacts to Ain's words. The angry noble is shocked and nervous, while Ain's grandfather grins, enjoying the situation. Ain keeps his composure and tells the noble he understands his feelings about the crown prince losing his inheritance to Heim, and that he doesn't blame him for feeling that way. The noble panics, quickly denying he has any complaints about the crown prince. Ain starts thinking about his past, blaming himself for being weak and for making things hard for his mother. He remembers how he was cast aside by his own family, feeling it was normal for people to look down on him. But things changed after meeting her. He finally got a chance to prove himself. Ain then steps forward, grabs a glowing object, and says he wants to apologize for his weakness to everyone. But that's not how things are anymore. The noble panics, thinking Ain is going to do something dangerous, but Ain stays calm and tells him not to worry. Ain calmly places his hand on the large blue magic stone, and it starts to glow and release energy. Everyone is shocked as they watch the blue stone begin to turn transparent right before their eyes. The guests start chattering in disbelief, realizing something extraordinary is happening. Ain holds up the now transparent platinum stone, letting everyone know that he won't lose to the power of monsters. He says this platinum is proof, reminding everyone it's the same platinum loved by the first king. Standing confidently in the center of the room, he asks the crowd if they still think the pride of Ishtalika is weak or not. The older man watching him looks surprised, thinking how much Ain resembles someone else. The mood in the room completely shifts. Ain stands tall in front of the crowd, holding the platinum stone up high. He loudly declares his name, Ain von Ishtalika. He tells everyone that if they have any complaints about Klon, they should bring them to him instead. He finishes by saying that if anyone still has complaints about him, they're welcome to come to the castle anytime. Everyone in the room is left watching him in silence, clearly impressed by his confidence. Ain raises the platinum high, shouting out to everyone in the room. He promises, as the crown prince, that he will become a king worthy of guiding Ishtalika, just like the first king did. The whole crowd is left stunned by his determination and confidence. Everyone is shocked by Ain's declaration, calling him crown prince and highness. Ain, a bit nervous, asks everyone to also accept Klon's presence by his side. Klon is surprised and touched, and Ain thinks to himself that he just blurted out whatever was on his mind again. Everyone close to Ain reacts emotionally to the announcement, some with relief, some with pride. The king quietly acknowledges what happened, while Ain realizes that from this day forward, he has truly become the crown prince of Ishtalika. A few days after Ain announced himself as the crown prince at the party, a public event is held for the citizens of Ishtalika. Fireworks go off, the castle is decorated, and Ain greets the cheering crowd as the new crown prince. After the announcement, people talk about how brave and impressive Ain was for protecting Klain and not being afraid of the magic stone's power. The king is relieved everything went smoothly, and Klain thanks Ain, handing him a drink while everyone relaxes. The king talks about how, normally, he'd have to punish Ain, but since Ain already went through a lot, he lets it go. Warren points out that the nobles are impressed by Ain and that the story of what happened at the party will spread. They also notice that Ain's speech was almost exactly like the first king's, even though no one ever told him about it. Warren thinks Ain probably read about it somewhere, since he admires the first king. Then, Warren brings up that he has a report about Lady Klain. Warren offered Klain 3 education paths: to become a civil official, to be educated like the queen, or to be a princess who influences many people. The king asks which one she chose. Klain decided to pursue a path where she would receive a high education, grow into someone who could influence many people, and be able to protect the king. Ain listened, as she shared her determination and goals for the future. The king realizes Klain chose all 3 paths offered to her. Both elders reflect on how fortunate the next generation is, admiring the growth and promise shown by Ain and Klain. They quietly agree, feeling hopeful about the future. A grand farewell ceremony is held, with Ain, Klain, and Olivia in the center, surrounded by guards. Cherry blossoms fall as Olivia checks if Ain and Klain are ready for their journey. Ain and Klain are ready and motivated for the new chapter, each heading to different academies. Olivia tries to join in their send-off with a hug, but is told she can't go with them. They promise to do their best. Olivia worries about Ain, but Chris reassures her that she'll be escorting him. The group points out that Olivia showing up at the academy would cause a scene. Ain says goodbye to his mother and prepares to leave for the academy with Klain. Ain leaves for the academy, smiling and ready for his new school life. Olivia watches with a gentle smile, wishing him well as he starts this new chapter. The group arrives at the academy, surrounded by other students and staff. Ain arrives at the crowded academy entrance, feeling overwhelmed by all the people. Chris reassures him that she'll take him to school safely every day. Even with her words, Ain finds it hard to relax and wonders if he'll ever feel comfortable at such a prestigious school. At the academy entrance, Chris calls over a student named Dill. Dill walks up to Ain, greets him respectfully, and Chris starts to introduce the two of them. Chris introduces Dill Galatia as the son of Lloyd and Marche. Ain and the others get surprised, mixing up the relationship and thinking Lloyd and Marche are a married couple because of their height difference. Lloyd and Marche are seen together, which surprises the boy. A woman explains that Lloyd, though still an apprentice knight, already has exceptional skills and can protect others. She also mentions that both Lloyd and Marche work at the castle, which is why they rarely show their private lives. Shocked, the boy realizes he didn't know they were actually married. Dill Galatia introduces himself as the new bodyguard, expressing honor in serving the young prince. A messenger delivers a message from the king, explaining that this arrangement is meant as training for the prince to learn leadership. He's told not to be overly formal or humble toward Dill, but still to respect him, following the king's instructions. The boy greets Dill warmly, extending his hand with a friendly smile. Dill, maintaining his formal composure, stands up and returns the gesture with respect, marking the start of their partnership. Dill bows respectfully, expressing his honor in serving the prince. Ain, trying to ease the formality, suggests he call him by name instead. However, Dill politely refuses, insisting on keeping proper distance as a bodyguard. Ain can't help but notice how stiff and serious Dill is. The woman reminds Ain not to return without Dill after school. As she leaves, Ain worries if he's seen as unreliable for needing constant supervision. Walking together, Dill confirms there's no welcoming event at the academy and plans to guide the prince around after class. Ain agrees and says he'll wait in his classroom until then. Ain and Dill arrive at the academy, where Dill explains that Ain will belong to the first class. Impressed by the massive ornate door, Ain notes how grand it looks compared to others. Dill clarifies that only top students are placed in the first class, and the door's design reflects that distinction. Dill explains that the Royal Kingsland Academy values skill above all else, serving both nobles and commoners who aim to contribute to the nation. After he leaves, Ain prepares himself mentally for the challenge. Curious about the grand door with no handle, he inspects it until it suddenly opens on its own, startling him. Ain is amazed when the grand door opens automatically, wondering why such advanced mechanisms are used for a classroom. As he steps inside, he's greeted by the sight of an elegant lecture hall filled with students, some curious, some indifferent, and one even sleeping through class. Ain looks around the classroom, noting the small number of students, and feeling relieved that it might be easier to fit in. Soon after, the teacher enters introducing himself as Rook, the instructor for magic engineering, and their homeroom teacher pleased that all students are present on the first day. Rook explains that their class is special and was assigned to him after another teacher retired. He keeps his expectations simple. He only wants them to achieve results. After his brief and direct speech, he dismisses the class, leaving the students surprised by how abruptly it ends. Before leaving, Rook adds that students can skip classes as long as they show results, though they must pass a test held twice a year. After he exits, a cheerful student named Roland introduces himself to Ain, mentioning he entered through the magic engineering exam. Ain is surprised by how much freedom the academy gives. While Roland laughs it off, Ain chats with Roland, who mentions he joined through the swordsmanship test. Curious, Ain quietly guesses Roland might be a demi-human, possibly a werewolf. Suddenly, Roland realizes Ain is the rumored student someone said to have defeated a veteran examiner and even destroyed the test arena. The class begins whispering in surprise as the story spreads among the students. Ain gets flustered as rumors spread about him, trying to downplay his reputation by joking about losing during the test. Roland, however, admires him even more. Before An can finish introducing himself, the door opens and Dil enters the classroom. The students whisper among themselves, surprised to see the son of the Grand Marshal walking straight toward Ain. Dil approaches Ain and respectfully addresses him as Your Highness, shocking everyone in the room. He explains he came to guide Ain around the academy, realizing he had forgotten about the school's free study system. As Dil extends his hand, the other students watch in awe, trembling at the sight of someone of his status showing such deference. Ain introduces himself to Roland with a friendly smile and invites him to join their tour around the academy. Flustered, Roland declines, saying he has other tasks to finish. As Ain leaves with Dil, Roland freezes in shock, realizing that the kind boy he casually spoke with is actually the Crown Prince. Dil guides Ain through the academy, showing him the vast buildings and impressive facilities, including a massive library that rivals the castle in size. Ain thanks him for the tour, amazed by the scale of the place. Curious, he asks if Dil plans to stay by his side throughout his time at the academy, wondering how it fits with Dil's own classes and training. Ain insists that Dil shouldn't neglect his own schedule just to guard him, but Dil remains firm, saying the prince's safety is his top priority. Noting how overly serious Dil is, Ain tries to ease the tension and suddenly asks about his taste in women, whether he prefers long hair, a certain personality, or kind people, catching Dil completely off guard. Ain tries to lighten the mood by asking Dil about his ideal type, hoping it'll help them bond. Dil, after a pause, says he prefers a woman stronger than himself. Remembering Chris, Ain realizes she perfectly fits that description. When Dil questions the sudden topic, Ain awkwardly explains he just wanted to understand the person who's protecting him better. Dil admits he'd like someone as tall and strong as his father, with a well-built physique. Dylan is stunned by the description but encourages him anyway, saying he hopes he finds someone like that. Dil quietly thanks him, explaining that others usually mock his preference, so Ain's words genuinely make him happy. Feeling that they've finally connected, Ain invites Dil to have lunch together so they can talk more. Though it's just a small gesture, Ain sees it as an important first step toward closing the distance between them. Dil agrees calmly, and the two walk side by side, marking the start of a growing friendship. During lunch, Ain imagines sharing a friendly meal and laughing with Dil, but reality turns out different. Dil stands nearby, keeping watch over the surroundings while Ain eats in silence. Realizing the distance between them hasn't really closed, Ain awkwardly continues his meal as the scene shifts to the nearby Liabe Female Academy. At the Liabe Female Academy, a girl named Klon finds herself surrounded by excited classmates, eager to introduce her to their noble relatives. Though they praise her beauty and status, she politely declines, explaining that she's just a commoner and doesn't see herself fit to form ties with nobles. Internally, she sighs, realizing that such conversations seem to happen everywhere. Klon gently thanks the girls for thinking so highly of her, but explains that if she caused any issues, the Prime Minister would be held responsible. The others quickly apologize for rushing her, and she responds with a kind smile, saying she hopes they can all get along. Her warm demeanor leaves the girls blushing and excited. Klon reflects on her transfer to the academy once attended by Olivia, determined to make the most of her limited time there. Walking alongside her classmates, she vows not to waste a single moment, and to give her best in everything she can do right now. At the outskirts of the Ishtalika capital, inside the night station, a tense night unfolds. Under the moonlight, a cell stands with its bars broken. Shocked by the report, a knight exclaims in alarm a prison break has occurred. Knights rush to the prison cell, baffled by how the inmate escaped. The reinforced door could only be opened with a special magic tool, yet there's no sign of tampering. The commander orders contact with the castle and demands a list of all station knights. The fugitive is identified as the Sloth, a rare vampire demi-human and a former adventurer turned ruthless killer who murdered countless people for money. Under the moonlit sky of Ishtalika, the escaped vampire moves swiftly across the rooftops, his cloak fluttering like bat wings. As knights scramble to hunt him down, he takes to the night with a sinister grin, fully embracing his freedom and the chaos to come. A week passes since Ain's enrollment at the academy. After parting ways with Roland, he walks with Dill, who asks if everything has been satisfactory so far. Ain says he's fine, though the school's freedom sometimes leaves him unsure of what to focus on. He then brings up a rumor about the sudden change of their class's teacher, prompting a subtle reaction from Dill. Dill reveals that the former teacher, Wolf Magnus, was dismissed for his actions and ideals, which conflicted with the academy's principles. Once in charge of the pharmacy and an expert on monster poisons, he belonged to a noble family connected to Dill's own. However, past incidents of discrimination against commoners led to his removal, uncovered during the background checks made before Ain's enrollment. Dill explains that the dismissed man was from a noble bloodline but lacked any true dignity. He was reassigned to the Knights for oversight, but had a history of misconduct. While Dill believes the man deserved a harsher punishment, Ain admits he doesn't agree with such actions either. He reflects that nobles and commoners aren't so different, stating that even as royalty, he refuses to use his status to look down on others. Dill compliments Ain's perspective, calling it a beautiful way of thinking. Ain, hoping to break the formality between them, suggests Dill talk to him more casually. However, Dill politely refuses, saying that as his bodyguard, he can't afford to act informally, keeping his composed and dutiful stance. Chris excuses herself to report something to the guards, asking Ain to stay put while she's gone. Ain agrees, but soon feels uneasy as he notices how crowded the city is. Uncomfortable in the bustling streets, he awkwardly stands out, drawing attention from nearby passers-by. Ain notices a group of girls wearing the same uniform as clowns, realizing they're students from the Liab Female Academy. Nearby, two intimidating men harass the girls, insisting it's unsafe to walk without a bodyguard and offering their own protection. The girls refuse nervously, but the men grow more forceful, causing a tense scene in the street. Seeing the girls being harassed, Ain steps in calmly and asks the men to stop, pointing out that they're clearly bothering them. The men glare at him, mocking his interference and accusing him of playing the hero. Ain stands firm and tells the girls to leave, assuring them it's okay, while the thugs close in, irritated that he disrupted their business. One of the thugs, enraged, swings at Ain, shouting that he'll regret interfering with adults. Ain dodges swiftly and counters in an instant, grabbing the man's arm and throwing him to the ground with ease. The thug crashes down, groaning in pain, while Ain calmly points out that the man was the one who attacked first. The remaining thugs realize Ain is from the Royal Academy, but decide to gang up on him anyway, thinking they can overpower a single kid. Ain nervously raises his hands, trying to de-escalate the situation and apologizing, but his awkward demeanor only makes them mock him more. They smirk, assuming he's scared, unaware that he's calmly assessing the situation. Ain faces the group of defeated thugs when Chris returns from her patrol, clearly angry. She scolds him, reminding him that she told him to stay put, while the knocked-out men lie scattered behind him. Ain awkwardly admits she's right, apologizing as she sighs in frustration. Despite her irritation, she softens and tells him it's fine since he meant well, before joking about how he always seems to get himself into trouble. The group visits a grand hall filled with ancient weapons and artifacts. As Ain walks with Chris and Laurel, Chris lightly teases him about his reckless actions earlier, reminding him he only got off with a light punishment from the king and a reflection essay. Laurel joins in, expressing her worry but also relief that he's safe. Ain admits his mistake, smiling awkwardly as both women warmly scold him, showing their affection and concern. Queen Laurel of Ishtalika, a graceful dark elf, praises Ain for his bravery, but reminds him that his actions were still risky for a crown prince. Despite her calm tone, there's clear affection in her words. As they walk together, she mentions wanting to reward him for his deeds, calling herself his grandma in a teasing yet warm way. Curious, Ain follows her as she searches for something in the royal treasury meant just for him. Laurel presents Ain with a dark, ornate dagger resting on a velvet cushion, its blade pitch black and engraved with intricate patterns. She explains that it matches perfectly with him, especially after he absorbed the Dullahan's magic stone. Though hesitant to accept such a national treasure, Ain is encouraged by Laurel and the others, who insist it suits the image of a royal knight. Nervously, he reaches out and lifts the weapon, feeling its unusual power the moment he touches it. As Ain holds the dagger, A faint glow runs along the dark blade. He's surprised by how natural it feels in his hand, as if it were part of him. The weapon's weight, balance, and aura all seem perfectly attuned to him. Laurel watches proudly, asking for his thoughts. Ain, still stunned, admits that the dagger feels like an extension of his own arm, realizing this gift carries a deeper connection than he expected. Ain happily thanks Queen Laurel, calling her grandma, his smile bright and genuine. The heartfelt moment catches her off guard, making her heart skip a beat. The others laugh warmly as the atmosphere lightens. Olivia and Chris rush in to hug Ain, doting on him for being so cute and even cooler than before, watching the cheerful chaos unfold as the boy she just rewarded gets smothered in affection. Ain proudly shows his new dagger, explaining that it was a gift from his grandmother. The elegant weapon catches everyone's attention, and his classmate compliments how well it suits him. As they talk, a small cat-eared girl climbs onto the bed, pouting and interrupting them. Annoyed at being ignored, she insists they finally listen to what she has to say, making Ain quickly apologize and turn his attention to her. The group gathers to discuss a mysterious black crystal sealed in a display case. The cat-eared girl explains that it's the cursed magic stone Ain bought from Majolica's store, but she can't analyze it at all. Even after studying countless books, she hasn't found any clue about its nature. Ain suggests checking the Academy's library since it holds more knowledge than the castle's, but even then, no one seems confident. The cat-eared girl mocks Ain, calling him a useless crown prince, which immediately irritates him. Losing patience, Ain grabs and pulls her sensitive ears, making her yelp in pain. His friend quickly scolds him for resorting to violence, and Ain awkwardly apologizes, admitting it's just how things usually go between them. The cat girl grumbles about his temper, rubbing her ears while sighing that they're really getting out of hand, as the tense yet comical atmosphere settles over the group. The cat-eared girl proposes a risky solution to deal with the cursed magic stone. She suggests Ain should try absorbing a bit of its power himself. Ain hesitates, calling it a brute method, but she insists it should be safe if he only takes a little. To be cautious, she mentions sealing or destroying the room if anything goes wrong. Realizing there's no other choice, Ain agrees to try, asking his friend Klon to step back while the cat girl releases the seal on the stone. As the seal around the cursed magic stone weakens, Ain steps closer, feeling a strange pull from it. The others watch carefully, tense but curious. When he reaches out, something stirs. A faint vibration echoes through the room. Ain feels a sudden throb in his chest, as if the stone is resonating with his energy. The others exchange uneasy glances, unsure if it's working or if something dangerous is about to happen. As soon as Ain touches the cursed magic stone, a dark aura bursts out, swirling violently around him. A deep, eerie voice echoes in his mind saying, "I found you." Klon shouts for Ain to put the stone back, while the cat girl panics, realizing the voice came from the stone itself. The power flares even stronger, and Ain struggles to contain it, his body trembling as he tries to force it back into the box. Dark energy bursts out from the stone, wrapping around Ain as four massive phantom hands emerge from his back. The air distorts from their power, sending papers and books flying around the room. Ain stares in disbelief, realizing the energy is coming from him, the same cursed power that once belonged to a Dullahan. Shocked, he wonders why this power is manifesting again, and why it's even stronger than before. Ain's body moves on its own, the phantom hands wrapping tightly around the cursed stone as energy surges through him. The girls panic, shouting for him to stop, but he can't control it. The power is being drawn in by force. His grip tightens, and the room trembles as the stone's energy fuses with his body. Ain grits his teeth, realizing he's not absorbing it by will. The magic stone itself is being consumed by his power. The cat girl leaps toward Ain, desperately trying to pull him back, as the cursed power spirals out of control. Phantom hands thrash wildly, knocking over furniture and cracking the floor. She yells for him to stop, but Ain is being dragged by the force of the magic stone's absorption. The energy surges again, bursting through the room's walls, as both of them are thrown back by the explosion of power. As the dust clears, Ain stands up weakly, feeling the weight of exhaustion in his body. He looks down, stunned to see that his right arm has transformed, now covered in dark armor, pulsing faintly with the same cursed energy as the magic stone. The girls stare in disbelief, realizing the transformation isn't temporary. Ain grips his new arm, his expression torn between confusion and shock, while the others whisper in awe and fear at what he's become. The cursed stone's power finally settles, leaving the room in ruins and filled with smoke. Ain stands at the center, his right arm now completely transformed into a dark, armored form that pulses faintly with lingering energy. The others stare at him in shock and confusion. No one understands what just happened. The shattered fragments of the magic stone lie still in the box, dim and lifeless. Ain looks down at his arm, his voice trembling as he asks, "What is this?" While everyone else can only watch in silence, unable to find an answer, Ain sits at the table, still staring at his armored arm in disbelief. The others gather around, trying to make sense of what just happened. He explains that his body moved on its own, as if trying to absorb the cursed magic stone. The cat girl realizes that the reaction might have been caused by the resonance between the magic stones he already possessed and this one. Ain insists he didn't mean to absorb it, but the transformation proves otherwise. The atmosphere turns tense, as they all realize something far deeper is happening inside him than anyone expected. Earlier that day, Ain had spoken with Majolica, the merchant who sold him the cursed magic stone. She explained that some rare stones possess a unique resonance, a mysterious pull that draws them toward others of the same kind. The Dullahan stone and the Demon Lord stone were prime examples, reacting as if they shared a bond from their former wielders. According to her, the stones almost behave as if they have a will of their own, seeking to reunite. Majolica's warning echoed in his mind. If two such stones resonated too strongly, something uncontrollable could awaken within the bearer. The room was left in chaos after the explosion, with fragments scattered everywhere. Ain sat on the floor, still stunned by the armored arm that had formed. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. Chris, alarmed by the loud noise. Panic spread among them as Klon tried to make excuses, but Chris insisted on entering. Desperate, the group scrambled to hide Ain's transformation before she could see the destruction inside. Just before Chris entered, Ain's armor suddenly vanished, leaving the room chaotic but harmless looking. As Chris stepped in, she found the trio acting nervously, trying to hide their panic. She questioned the noise, and they brushed it off awkwardly. Then, noticing the box in her hands, the cat girl's eyes widened. Whatever was inside seemed to spark her curiosity and tension instantly. The tension quickly faded when the box revealed a beautifully ornate book. Ain and Klon looked on, amazed by its luxurious design and shocked when she proudly admitted it had cost her an entire year's allowance. Meanwhile, Chris quietly agreed to handle her delivery request, though still puzzled by the earlier chaos. The cat girl proudly revealed that the luxurious book was written by a renowned elf who spent their life studying a single topic, the Demon Lord. Ain's expression tensed as she realized the subject, while the cat girl excitedly opened it without hesitation, eager to read what was inside. As soon as the book was opened, the cat girl froze. She couldn't read a single word. It was written in the ancient elf language, a script so old and complex that even most elves couldn't understand it anymore. While she panicked over the wasted effort, Klon calmly pointed something out to Ain, noticing an unusual mark within the pages. As they examined the book, Ain was surprised to see a portrait of the Dullahan, looking completely human. Klon noticed that the man in the illustration oddly resembled Ain, making the atmosphere tense for a moment. While the cat girl complained about wanting to read more instead of just looking at pictures, Ain decided it was time to step out, leaving her pouting in frustration. After the others left, Chris stayed behind to handle the deliveries. Spotting the ornate book left on the desk, her curiosity got the better of her. She picked it up, noticing its title, Biography of the Demon Lord and His Aides. Wondering what kind of book it was, she slowly began to open it. Curiosity got the better of Chris as she peeked inside the book. She found an illustration of a graceful, mysterious woman, the Elder Lich. Captivated by the image, she lost track of time before suddenly remembering her duties and hurriedly preparing to deliver the package she had forgotten. During a school assembly, the teacher announced an upcoming competition held in the Academy District, an event meant to strengthen ties between different academies. Ain read through the details, learning about various contests, like speech, swordsmanship, and magic. While he seemed curious, his cat-eared classmate grew excited, only for Ain to calmly state that their class wouldn't be participating, leaving the others shocked. Ain learned that only the higher classes would take part in the upcoming event, as the first and second classes were far ahead in skill. Realizing that's why their group received the notice so late, he accepted it without much concern. After homeroom ended, his classmate left for research while Ain headed to the training grounds, greeting his instructor, Kaiser, and preparing for another day of practice. Ain prepared for his training session, making sure his armor was properly equipped. His instructor, Kaiser, showed a rare moment of care, ensuring everything was in order before beginning. As the session started, Kaiser activated a control panel, and a magical projection began to form in the arena, signaling the start of Ain's combat exercise. Ain faced the enormous red bison, summoned into the training arena by Kaiser. The instructor reminded him that while the creature couldn't kill, its attacks were still powerful enough to cause serious damage. Confidently, Ain mentioned he had defeated it several times before, but wanted to try a new strategy this time. The massive red bison roared furiously, shaking the entire arena as it charged toward Ain. Calm and composed, Ain drew his sword, ready to face the beast head-on. while Kaiser watched in shock at the creature's sudden burst of power. Ain tightened his grip on his sword, meeting the red bison's charge head-on. The ground cracked beneath them as both forces clashed in raw strength. Despite the pressure and trembling earth, Ain held firm, refusing to be overpowered by the beast's immense might. With a surge of strength, Ain roared and hurled the massive red bison across the arena, slamming it to the ground. Breathing heavily, but victorious, he celebrated his success as the creature struggled to rise, steam rising from its body after the powerful clash. Kaiser slammed his hand on Ain's head, scolding him for recklessly taking the red bison's charge head-on. Ain nervously laughed it off, trying to justify his actions. But the instructor's anger only grew as he demanded Ain find safer strategies instead of such insane stunts. After a tiring day of training, Ain relaxed at a cafe with his friends. As they talked, he mentioned he wouldn't be joining the Academy District competition, though the others shared their excitement about an upcoming exhibition match. Hearing that Dilly would be participating, Ain brightened up, eager to cheer him on during the event. As Ain sat at the cafe, he suddenly noticed Klon and her friends approaching. Caught off guard, he awkwardly tried to hide, which only made things worse when Klon spotted him. Her calm expression turned into a pout, clearly displeased by his reaction, leaving Ain flustered and scrambling to explain himself. Ain grew tense when Klon and her friends sat at the table right beside him. The situation felt awkward, especially when the girls began chatting about the Crown Prince and asking Klon to share stories about him. As the conversation continued, Ain's heart raced, uneasy at hearing them mention the day she was saved by the prince, an event connected to him. As Klon spoke warmly about the Crown Prince, her eyes shone with admiration. She described him as kind, brave, and someone who truly cared for others. Listening from nearby, Ain felt conflicted, embarrassed, yet quietly moved while she expressed how grateful she was to stay by the prince's side. Ain struggled to stay composed as the girls excitedly gushed over the Crown Prince, praising his noble character. Klon seemed amused by his reaction, teasing him just enough to make him squirm. When she mentioned how close the prince was to the first princess, Ain's awkwardness only grew, realizing she was intentionally making things harder for him. Ain appeared unexpectedly, immediately drawing everyone's attention. The girls were shocked to see the prince himself, while Klon calmly explained she had business at the castle. Ain smiled and offered to accompany her back, extending his hand. She accepted with a quiet giggle, her expression softening as the others watched in awe. Ain smiled as Klon teased him about hiding earlier, admitting it was his way of making up for it. He gently held her hands, and she blushed in surprise. After a brief moment, he excused himself, leaving the other girls stunned by the sight of their friendly and charming prince. As a student walked through the academy grounds, he noticed a suspicious group loitering near the entrance. His calm expression shifted to concern as one of the strangers turned toward him with a sinister grin. The atmosphere quickly grew tense, signaling that trouble was about to unfold. Explosions echoed across the grand arena as magic and combat displays filled the air with energy. The massive structure stood proudly, drawing crowds from all over. Ain and his companion gazed up in awe at its scale, impressed by the size and grandeur of the place as the tournament atmosphere built around them. As Ain wished him luck for the upcoming swordsmanship exhibition, Dill tried to keep his composure but couldn't hide his tension. Ain quickly noticed his nervousness, catching him off guard. Embarrassed, Dill admitted his unease, feeling ashamed that he had revealed his weak side to the prince. Ain teased Dill after noticing his rare nervousness, saying it was nice to see that side of him. Embarrassed but composed, Dill insisted he couldn't relax his formality, refusing to call the prince by name. Ain smirked, amused by his strictness, while Dill excused himself, leaving Ain thoughtful about having glimpsed a more human side of his usually stoic bodyguard. Ain mentioned that Dill still refused to call him by his name, which made Chris laugh softly, relieved that the two were getting along. As they prepared to head to the arena, Ayan asked to stop by the academy first, explaining he had forgotten a pen his grandfather had given him. Chris agreed to escort him, saying there was still time before the match began. As Ain walked through the quiet academy grounds, he noticed how vast and empty the place felt without students around. A faint scent in the air caught his attention, a mix of several fragrances drifting from the cafe terrace. Curious, he paused, sensing something unusual when a soft rustling sound came from nearby. Inside the academy, a hooded man had captured a beast-eared student, pinning him to the floor with a heavy stomp. Annoyed, the man muttered about the students being on holiday and sighed at the inconvenience. The captive tried to reason with him, claiming he only came to retrieve something he'd forgotten in the classroom. Amused, the man admitted there was no real reason to hold him and decided he'd let him go later, flashing a cold grin that hinted he wasn't entirely trustworthy. The hooded man suddenly changed his mind, grabbing the terrified student by the collar and declaring he'd take him as part of his mission's spoils. Revealing his true nature, he admitted he was a vampire who hadn't drunk blood in weeks. With a twisted smile, he mentioned never having tasted the blood of a werewolf before, and wondered aloud what it might be like, closing in as the boy struggled in fear. The vampire leaned in close, his fangs glinting as he admitted he had trouble controlling his urges. With a manic grin, he warned that he might drain the boy's blood completely and kill him in the process. His crazed laughter echoed through the room, while the terrified captive froze, realizing just how dire his situation had become. The vampire lifted the bound boy by the neck, amused by his fear, when the door creaked open. Ain stepped in, his calm demeanor hiding a sharp tension in his eyes. Realizing what was happening, he glared at the cloaked man and demanded in a cold, steady tone to know what he was doing to his friend. The vampire tightened his grip on the boy's neck as Ain questioned him, demanding to know what happened outside. The vampire seemed unimpressed, muttering about how troublesome things had become while calling the fallen men useless, clearly underestimating the boy standing before him. The vampire snapped in fury, veins bulging as he screamed at Ain for making things more troublesome. Unfazed, Ain calmly told him it wouldn't be a problem if he just surrendered. The vampire refused, declaring he'd never return to prison. In silence, Ain reached for his weapon, his expression firm as he prepared to end the confrontation himself. Ain lunged forward with determination, shouting that he'd catch the vampire by force. The two clashed in a blur of movement, Ain's blade cutting through the air as the vampire dodged with a hiss. With quick reflexes, Ain managed to snatch his bound friend from the enemy's grasp, holding him close as the vampire smirked, impressed by the boy's speed. Ain demanded to know the intruder's identity and his purpose at the academy. The vampire smirked, licking his wounded arm as he revealed he was hired by a noble who held a grudge against the institution. Deciding it wasn't worth the trouble to stay, he prepared to leave, muttering that his service time was over. The vampire threw down a smoke screen, filling the room with thick clouds of dust. Ain quickly readied himself, scanning the haze as the enemy's voice echoed, claiming to be a former adventurer who learned to stay cautious against any foe. Ain clenched his fist, eyes sharp with determination, and charged through the smoke, vowing to fight back, even if his opponent was far stronger than him. Ain struggled to see through the smoke, realizing the vampire had far more battle experience, and the situation was turning against him. Memories echoed in his mind, warnings not to reveal his true power carelessly. But as he saw his injured friend suffering in the enemy's grasp, his hesitation faded, his expression hardened. The vampire lunged from the smoke, eyes blazing with bloodlust, as he threatened to cut Ain down and drain him dry. But before he could strike, a burst of power erupted from the boy. The air cracked, and the vampire's attack was stopped mid-motion. His expression twisted in shock and pain. As blood splattered, he couldn't even process what had hit him. Ain stood firm, silent, and terrifyingly calm. Ain unleashed his power, summoning a massive spectral arm that tore through the smoke with overwhelming force. The phantom's hand shot forward, smashing through everything in its path and sending shockwaves across the room. The sheer impact cracked the floor and walls, showing the true extent of the power he'd been holding back. As the smoke cleared, the room lay in ruins. Walls cracked, and debris scattered everywhere. Ain stood calmly in the center, the phantom's hand swirling protectively behind him like a living shadow. The vampire staggered back, glaring with disbelief. Ain's voice cut through the silence, steady and cold, accusing him of hurting his friend. Despite the enemy's mocking tone, Ain's eyes showed no hesitation. He was ready to end it. The vampire roared in anger, hurling massive debris across the room as his strength surged. He mocked Ain for underestimating grown warriors and swore he no longer needed his blood. Ain quickly reacted, his phantom's hand intercepting the flying rubble mid-air, shattering it into pieces before it could reach him. The clash shook the entire hall, the difference in power between them shrinking with each exchange. The vampire's rage boiled over, his voice echoing as he screamed for Ain to die. His body moved with feral speed, claws slicing through the air as he lunged. But Ain didn't flinch. His energy pulsed again, summoning another spectral arm to block the strike mid-swing. The impact split the floor beneath them, the force of their clash shaking the entire building. Ain unleashed a surge of power. Countless phantom arms burst from the ground, striking the vampire all at once. The overwhelming force wrapped around his body, tearing through his defenses and pinning him down. The vampire screamed in disbelief and rage, his strength fading as he struggled against the assault. Ain stood firm, his expression calm as his enemy's fury turned into panic. After the intense battle, Ain stood catching his breath, his phantom's hand slowly fading away. The vampire lay defeated among the rubble, barely conscious. Roland, shaken but unharmed, rushed toward Ain, confused and worried. Ain reassured him that the danger was over. the enemy was subdued. As Roland tried to process what had just happened, he remembered the man muttering something strange before collapsing. The two looked down at the fallen foe, realizing that his attack on the academy wasn't random. Someone had sent him with a purpose still unknown. Ain and Roland pieced together what happened. The vampire was a dismissed former staff member, fired for misconduct. Ain realized that the man mentioned being hired by a noble with a grudge against the academy. As the pieces connected, Ain's expression changed. A faint scent in the air triggered his memory from earlier, near the cafe terrace. Realizing there could be more danger, he urgently told Roland to evacuate and call Chris to the terrace. Without hesitation, he turned and ran, his instincts warning him that this wasn't over yet. Ain arrived at the cafe terrace, where a calm figure sat enjoying tea by the water. It was Wolf Magnus, a former teacher who had been dismissed from the academy. Despite his past, he appeared composed and unbothered, greeting Ain with an unsettling confidence. Ain confronted Wolf Magnus, realizing the man before him was the only one with a motive to harm the academy. As they spoke, Ain's sharp senses picked up a faint odor coming from the lake nearby. Drawing closer, he confirmed his suspicion. Hidden beneath the surface were multiple magic stones, hinting at a larger scheme set in motion by the former teacher. Beneath the lake, large containers filled with unstable magic stones began to emit violent energy. The setup was designed to overload magic tools throughout the academy, causing them to go berserk and eventually explode. A sinister grin spread across Wolf Magnus's face as his plan neared completion. Ain quickly deduced the presence of a bomb hidden within the lake's setup, impressing Wolf Magnus, who praised his sharp intuition. Magnus revealed his twisted ideology. He despised how the academy blurred the lines between nobles and commoners. To him, the institution had become corrupt, nurturing those he deemed unworthy. His words dripped with resentment as he justified his plan to destroy everything tied to that system. Wolf Magnus revealed his hatred toward the academy and his desire for revenge against those who ruined his status. Consumed by anger, he vowed to prove his ideals by destroying everything connected to his past. Ain, standing firm, declared his resolve. He loved his nation and the academy, and he wouldn't allow anyone to harm them. With determination burning in his eyes, he prepared to stop Wolf at any cost. Wolf revealed that the bomb beneath the lake was powered by high-quality magic stones, its destructive force enough to erase the entire academy. As the device began to overload, massive energy surged and the ground trembled. He gloated that no one could stop it now, while Ain watched in shock as the explosion threatened to consume everything. Wolf Magnus, completely overtaken by madness, proclaimed his intent to annihilate everything and rebuild a new Ishtalika from the ashes. His laughter echoed with delusion as he declared this destruction to be the start of a grand revolution, his eyes filled with twisted triumph while chaos loomed around him. Wolf proclaimed that with his own hands, Ishtalika would be reborn in a new, pure form. Ain, seeing the delusion in his words, charged forward without hesitation. Declaring that Wolf was the one truly in the wrong, he lunged with resolve to stop the madness before it consumed everything. Ain endured a barrage of shockwaves, blocking each one as explosions erupted around him. Realizing the blasts were caused by a magic tool, he steadied himself while Wolf warned him to flee, saying the explosion would consume them both. Calmly, Ain replied that he wouldn't die, standing firm as the chaos intensified. Wolf arrogantly declared he would witness Ishtalika's rebirth from a special seat, boasting that the jewels on his body would protect him from any explosion. But before he could finish his words, Ain struck with precision, breaking through his defenses and piercing him mid-sentence. Wolf boasted that the jewels on his body would shield him from the explosion as he watched Ishtalika's rebirth. Before he could act further, Ain swiftly launched forward, landing a decisive attack that pierced through Wolf's defenses, leaving him in shock. Ain struck Wolf with a powerful blow, piercing through his defenses completely. Shocked and in disbelief, Wolf realized he couldn't match Ain's strength. As he fell, Ain coldly stated that his ambitions would never come true. After defeating Wolf, Ain realized the bomb was still active and rushed to stop it. Ignoring Wolf's mocking warning that mishandling it could trigger the explosion sooner, Ain leapt fearlessly from the terrace toward the source of the danger. Ain dives underwater and quickly spots the large bomb powered by magic stones. He thinks it's probably impossible to defuse it normally, but considers using his own skill to neutralize the magic energy and try to stop the explosion. Ain uses his power to neutralize the magic stones, but he finds the taste overwhelming and unpleasant when absorbing so many at once. Despite this, he manages to make the glow of the stones fade and feels relieved that it worked. Ain escapes the water and collapses, exhausted but safe. Wolf laughs off his defeat, surprised that Ain managed to neutralize the bomb. Chris asks Ain for details, and Wolf Magnus is taken away. Ain explains that Wolf set a bomb at the bottom of the lake as part of a coup, but finds it strange since the real target should be the country's important people, who are all gathered for the competition today. Ain starts to realize there may be more to the plan. While Chris and the others talk about the exhibition and the presence of the royal family, Ain suddenly realizes the real danger. He suspects there's more than one bomb, raising the stakes even higher. Wolf admits Ain figured it out, but mocks him, saying he won't make it in time. Ain insists he's the only one who can defuse the bomb, but Chris says she'll go instead. Wolf laughs maniacally. Ain quickly guesses the bomb is probably at the arena and urges everyone to hurry. Ain refuses to run away alone. Thinking of his grandfather, friends, and clan, Chris understands and decides to go with him. Ready to risk her life, they both rush off together. During the swordsmanship match, Dill's childhood friend scores a point against him, surprising the audience and the royal observers. Both now have 1 point, and Dill's unexpected struggle catches everyone's attention. As the match continues, Dill notices the prince is missing from the stands. He remembers the prince's promise to cheer for him and wonders where he could be, feeling uneasy about his absence. The third round of the match starts, but Dill is distracted, worried about the prince's absence. Even as the fight heats up, his mind is on the missing prince, making him anxious. Ain and his group run through the crowd, looking for the second bomb. They realize the main gate is too crowded, so the back gate is a better spot for the enemy. After asking about the area, they remember there's a park and a bronze statue of the first king at the back gate. Ain quickly connects the dots, thinking that's where the bomb must be. Ain quickly finds the second bomb hidden under the statue, pointing out the strong smell coming from the bushes. The bomb is connected and already glowing with unstable energy, showing it's about to go off. Ain sees the bomb starting to explode under the statue. Chris thinks they didn't make it in time, but Ain refuses to give up, pushing himself to stop it at the last moment. Chris shouts out to Ain, desperately hoping he can stop the explosion just in time. Ain unleashes all his power in a last push to save everyone. Ain jumps straight toward the bomb, reaching out with everything he has, determined to stop it before it's too late. Ain faces his opponent in a tense match. While his rival is focused and determined to finally win, Ain's attention keeps drifting elsewhere, which frustrates his opponent. Dill tries to prove himself as the strongest in the Academy District, facing Ain with full determination. As the clash heats up, Ain shouts Dill's name, showing the intensity of their match. Ain stands ready, determined to win the match. He calls out to Dill, making it clear that this time he intends to be the winner. The crowd watches the heated face-off between the two. Dill lands a clean, decisive strike against Ain, sending him back. Dill is declared the winner of the match by a single point. The crowd cheers as Dill walks away victorious, and everyone in the stands reacts to the outcome. Ain and his friends get permission to go out as a reward for handling the situation with Wolf. They head to the castle town to do some shopping and enjoy their day. Ain, Olivia, and Chris walk around the seaside town after shopping. Ain feels a bit guilty about buying so many clothes, but the girls reassure him it's fine since he's the crown prince. He's more shocked by the price, realizing it was way more expensive than expected. As the wind blows, Ain suddenly gets cold. The girls notice Ain is cold from the sea breeze and suggest he should have a scarf since it's getting colder. Ain looks surprised, realizing he doesn't have one. As they admire the view, they talk about how the harbor has a beautiful crescent shape, but there are lots of reefs further out to sea. They learn the crescent-shaped harbor was formed after a monster attack. The monster, called the Sea King, was huge, bigger than the country's warships, and had the power to control the waves. It was just a single monster that caused all this. They find out the monster that changed the harbor's shape was the sea dragon. Ain and the girl look stunned as they process this information. They talk about how just one sea dragon has caused massive destruction, sinking ships, and causing many deaths over the centuries. In Ishtalika's history, only the Demon Lord has caused more casualties. The sea dragon appears every 100 to 200 years, and they wonder if it was ever truly defeated. They say that it wouldn't be surprising if the sea dragon appeared again soon. The knight reassures them, saying their research on countermeasures has advanced, and their country is stronger now, promising to protect them no matter what. After finishing their talk, one of the girls says she wants to visit a store. The group quickly agrees to go, and Chris is reminded she has something to look for too. They all head out together, excited for their next stop. They enter a well-known store, impressed by the jewelry and shoes on display. The group splits up to explore different floors. Ain checks out the first floor, while the others head upstairs, enjoying the fancy and welcoming vibe of the place. Ain approaches the shopkeeper and, after a little hesitation, says there's something he'd like to buy. Later, the scene shifts to a quiet night, where someone makes a toast under the moonlight. A big celebration is happening at the palace, with everyone gathered and enjoying the event. Ain sits at a table with his friends, noticing how relaxed his grandfather looks today. The mood is cheerful, and the king is in high spirits, declaring how great the day is. Ain is celebrating his 8th birthday. He receives a silver bracelet and a special pen with the kingdom's coat of arms as gifts, making him happy. Ain thanks his mother Klon for the gifts. He notices Chris is missing and asks about her. Then, they suggest Ain go out to the balcony alone for a minute, leaving him confused about the reason. Ain steps out onto the balcony, noticing it's snowing and colder now. Suddenly, Chris appears, nervously happy that Ain actually came. Ain is surprised to see her there, thinking it's just a coincidence. Ain asks Chris where she's been, and she tries to make an excuse but gets caught in a lie. Chris gets flustered and emotional, while Ain thinks to himself that Chris is really bad at lying. She tries to muster the courage to say something but hesitates, leaving Ain a bit confused. Chris gently wraps a scarf around Ain's neck as a birthday gift. She's clearly embarrassed, blushing while wishing him a happy birthday. Ain realizes the scarf is the same one Chris wanted to buy before. She's super embarrassed, struggling to explain, and admits she was too nervous to give it to him until now. Ain is clearly touched, while Chris fidgets and apologizes, saying it's her first time giving a gift. Ain gives Chris a gift too, a necklace he bought at the same store. Chris is surprised and really touched, thinking to herself how beautiful the necklace is and feeling happy that Ain gave it to her. Anne says he bought different gifts for Klain and his mother, but wanted Chris to get hers first, as thanks for always looking after him. Chris feels awkward, saying she's not worthy, but Ain insists, so she happily accepts and promises to use her new scarf every day. Chris holds the necklace Ain gave her, blushing hard. Ain points out how red her face is, but Chris quickly blames the cold. Deep down though, she's just really happy and flustered.